Hacking coughs echo through the quiet, dimly lit royal bedchamber. The shirtless, blonde-haired emperor refuses the bitter medicine being offered. The purple-haired physician, Serena, brightly presents a jar filled with colorful candies. Serena explains that the sweets will mask the medicine's unpleasant taste. She boasts about the extreme rarity of the artisan treats she procured specifically for him. A narrative scroll describes the emperor's fragility as Serena prepares to toss a candy. The small, striped sweet rolls across the floor with a soft, repetitive tap sounding. The blonde man, Azayad, takes offense at being treated like a child. Azayad points a finger, questioning her desperate and suspicious insistence on the treatment. Serena hides her internal fury behind a calm, professional mask of duty. He challenges her to test the drink herself, and she accepts without hesitation. Her gloved hand firmly grasps the edge of the large medicinal bowl. Serena downs the bitter liquid in a single defiant gulp as the staff watches in shock. Azayad remains silent, stunned by the physician's unexpected boldness. He finally begins to drink, while Serena watches with a hopeful, pleading expression. Serena and the servants celebrate internally as the emperor finally consumes the entire dose. The moment of triumph is shattered by a sudden, violent cough as blood sprays everywhere. Panic erupts in the room as voices cry out for the emperor. Azayad slumps over dead, leaving Serena paralyzed with horror at the failed treatment. The commander immediately orders Serena's execution for the attempted assassination of the emperor. Serena is dragged toward the public square, screaming her innocence and frustration. She trembles beneath the heavy blade of a guillotine, mourning her repeated failure. A sharp final thud sounds as the blade falls, ending her life once more. Serena gasps for air as she wakes in her bed, realizing she has regressed again. A loud, persistent knocking sounds at her door as the palace guards arrive to summon her. She curses the insufferable emperor who is the cause of her endless loop. The imperial carriage waits outside her humble cottage as the sun rises over the village. A formal portrait introduces the blonde-haired Azayad Khan Croton, emperor of the empire. History reveals he was an anomaly born with blue eyes and a red-eyed royal lineage. His birth led to immediate isolation within a secluded, lonely palace. Considered worthless and powerless, the young boy grew up in a cold, dark cell. A brutal power struggle erupted, consuming the rest of the royal family in flames. The nobles crowned the survivor as a puppet king to maintain their own control. Unexpectedly, he manifested a terrifying blue flame that far surpassed the traditional red. A close-up reveals the piercing intensity of the emperor's unique blue eyes. He evolved into an uncontrollable tyrant, wielding overwhelming and destructive power. The cowering nobles found their only hope in the fact that he was dying. A grim representation of a skeleton looms over the emperor, symbolizing his mysterious affliction. Red pomegranates symbolize the lingering shadow of the illness that plagues the throne. Serena walks through the grand halls, reflecting on the secrets learned in her previous lives. She closes her eyes, weary from the 3 cycles of death she has endured. She grips her own hands tightly, feeling trapped by the inevitable palace summons. Bound by the chains of fate, she resolves to speak her mind before her next certain death. Serena stands before the throne with newfound determination as she is introduced to the court. The emperor stares down at her, questioning if she truly possesses the skill to save him. Serena bows deeply, performing the required royal etiquette with practiced precision. Her sharp, observant eyes analyze the emperor's condition with clinical focus. She notes his messy appearance and arrogant posture as he reclines on his throne. Azayad yawns dismissively, daring her to cure the illness that has defeated all others. Serena stares back with a cold, unwavering gaze, no longer afraid of the tyrant king. The emperor sits pensive upon his throne. Serena announces to the room that she has a single question. The purple-haired physician stands with quiet confidence. Azayad rejects the medicine as suspicious, while Serena desperately pleads for his trust. She reflects on his past isolation and the need to confirm his willingness to be cured. A noble scolds her for being casual, but the emperor dismisses the concern. Azayad clarifies he seeks treatment, while Serena boldly claims she can cure his illness. Serena states she requires one thing from him. The emperor smiles, allowing her to speak and promising to grant anything. A heavy silence fills the grand hall. Serena clenches her fist with renewed determination. She addresses the emperor with formal poise. Azayad stares back with a confused expression. He recalls hearing rumors of her medical genius. The blonde man wonders if she is attempting to seduce him. He questions if she conspired with the nobles, though their terrified expressions suggest otherwise. Azayad suspects she covets a position of power beside him on the throne. He remembers the cold isolation of being treated as if he never existed. He believes everyone is simply chasing after his power. Azayed expresses his disgust toward those power seekers, but Serena asks for his pardon.
She explains that treating a patient requires unavoidable physical contact like pulse checks and massages.
She warns that emergencies might even require her to use surgical tools on him. Azayed falls into a stunned, quiet silence. The Emperor realizes he misunderstood her intentions, while Serena remains utterly confused.
A loud, awkward cough breaks the tension. Azayed covers his face in deep embarrassment.
Serena wonders if his red face indicates a fever or a day state. She warns that without cooperation, he will soon be meeting the Reaper in the underworld.
A noble rages at her nonsense, but Serena insists this is only the beginning.
The staff is shocked to hear a sudden, stifled laugh from the throne. A genuine, loud laugh echoes through the hall. Azayed laughs heartily as Serena watches with a flat, unimpressed expression. The Emperor finally agrees to her terms. He asks for her stake if she fails, and she proposes a 1-year deadline. Serena vows to cure his illness within exactly 1 year. She offers her own life as collateral if the treatment fails. She demands that he must follow every prescription she gives without exception. Azayed finds her confidence interesting and accepts the proposal, acknowledging their lives are now linked. The Emperor turns away from his throne. He warns that failure after 1 year will result in a dire consequence. He declares she must repay his trust with her life, which she accepts. Serena dares him to execute her cleanly if she should fail.
Azayed hands her a token, leaving her baffled by his sudden change in behavior.
A golden object is dropped into her palm. Serena holds the physician's badge with awe. Her eyes light up at the official appointment. The noble protests the quick appointment, but Azayed dismisses him and orders him to leave. Serena reflects on the unprecedented respect she just received. She thanks him, resolving to do whatever it takes to save his life. The scene shifts to the quiet palace library. Azayed confirms to his advisor that he has officially appointed a new personal physician today. Leonard Carter, the Emperor's advisor and guard, suggests that the blonde man should have been more careful. Leonard emphasizes the need for caution with those close to him, though the Emperor remains uncertain. Azayed remarks that if he isn't careful, he will simply end up meeting the Reaper sooner. He recounts the girl's bold request to touch him, which leaves Leonard in a state of shock. Azayed reiterates his desire to avoid the underworld, while his advisor is left speechless by her rudeness. He appears to be genuinely enjoying the situation, noting they have exactly 1 year. The blonde man wonders if a girl like her can truly cure a legendary disease. He suspects that if left alone, she will eventually be begging for his mercy. A new morning dawns over the quiet and grand imperial palace. A door slowly and quietly creaks open, letting in a sliver of light. Soft, steady footsteps echo as someone walks across the bedroom floor. The purple-haired physician enters the room and pauses at the sight of the Emperor. Azayed is fast asleep, buried deep beneath a thick red blanket. Serena suddenly yanks the covers back, startling the blonde man awake. He rubs his face in confusion, trying to process the sudden wake-up call. Serena offers a cheerful greeting as the Emperor stares back at her in complete disbelief. A close-up shows the blonde man's shock at the physician's unexpected presence. Serena smiles brightly, looking refreshed and ready for her new duties. She reflects on how good this new life feels as she walks through the hall. She recalls how she never achieved the status of personal physician in her previous cycles. Serena excitedly admires the violet eyes ring she was given by the Emperor.
A chart reveals that redder rings grant more power, though she finds her purple one sufficient.
She resolves that the authority granted by the purple ring is all she needs. A maid stops her, explaining that His Majesty is currently resting and cannot be disturbed. Serena maintains a confident and knowing smile in the face of the maid's warning. She displays her ring, asserting her right to enter the Emperor's chambers at any time. The maid apologizes for the oversight while Serena formally introduces herself as the new physician. The maid acknowledges the appointment and allows her to enter the room. Serena enters with a sharp focus, declaring that her real work begins now. She immediately observes that the bedroom is filled with dust and needs a thorough cleaning. She resolves to fix the poor living conditions of the patient right away. Azayed clutches his head, looking irritated by the morning light and the visitor. Serena announces the start of the morning checkup with boundless energy. He angrily demands she leave and stop touching his things while he is trying to sleep. Serena points to her ring, reminding him that he gave it to her for this exact purpose. Azayed coughs from the dust while Serena notes that the air quality is terrible for his health. She throws the windows wide open, proclaiming that clean air is the most effective medicine. The blonde man questions if she has lost her mind or simply doesn't care about her life. Serena looks him in the eye and calmly states her strong desire for a long life. She instructs him to follow her prescriptions exactly as he takes a drink of water. Azayed watches her, wondering if she is dangerously overconfident or simply completely fearless. Serena sits on the bed and declares it is time to start the morning checkup. She examines his back as the Emperor lets out a long, weary sigh. The blonde man rolls up his sleeve to allow the physician to continue her work. Serena focuses on the task at hand, carefully preparing to check his condition. A close-up reveals the Emperor's suspicious and weary expression as she approaches. She uses a magic thermometer and notes with a smile that his temperature is perfectly normal. He pulls away and tells her to stop touching him now that she is finished. Serena reflects on how he remains as prickly as ever despite his stable temperature. The blonde man looks pensive as he realizes things are almost out of control. Azayed tells the physician to leave, but Serena insists there is still more to do. Serena sits on the bed and calmly announces she needs to check the Emperor's chest. The Emperor reacts with pure shock at her sudden and forward request. Serena raises her hand, asking the blonde man to wait for a moment. A flustered Azayed questions her movements while Serena assures him she has no inappropriate intentions. He grabs her wrists in a panic, only for her to explain she is simply checking his mana core. Serena asks if he truly thinks she would try to fondle him while Azayed remains speechless. Azayed reluctantly exposes his chest, revealing a magical seal, and tells her to finish quickly. The purple-haired physician focuses intently, asking for a brief moment of his time. Serena places her hand on his chest as waves of blue mana begin to swirl around them. She begins injecting her own mana directly into the glowing seal on the Emperor's chest. The blonde man looks on in surprise, questioning how she could possess a mana core. Serena asks if it is truly that shocking for an illegitimate child like her to have power. Azayed winces in pain and tries to clarify that his surprise isn't about her birth. She watches with a steady gaze as the Emperor appears to be struggling with the treatment. Serena's eyes widen as she notices a sudden change in the flow of energy. She notes the mana is finally taking effect as the room fills with a brilliant blue light. Serena wonders if their compatibility is exceptionally good or if the Emperor's core is just unstable. She wishes she could investigate further, but decides she must stop for now. Seeing the Emperor panting and exhausted, she decides it's best to let him calm down. Serena asks if he is actually overheating simply from having his mana core touched. She observes that the compatibility is terrible and his core power is dangerously unstable while he drinks water. Serena asks if he has ever overexerted his core before, but he claims not to remember. She tells him to think harder, causing a chibi Azayed to angrily shout that he rarely used his power. Azayed demands she leave immediately, but Serena insists on staying for just one more minute. Serena declares she will be returning every single day for his morning checkup, leaving him stunned. She also decides to replace his blackout curtains for better health, much to the Emperor's disbelief. Azayed questions if she thinks her new position gives her the right to act so boldly. He leans in close and warns her to take it easy as they lock eyes. The blonde man continues his scolding, asking if she truly believes he hired her to be reckless. He tells her she needs to start doing things in moderation from now on. A close-up shows the Emperor's sharp blue eye as he stares her down. Serena remains quiet, offering no immediate response to his stern warning. She cheerfully agrees to replace the curtains with better ones as Azayed watches in confusion. The purple-haired physician waves a final, energetic goodbye as she prepares to depart. Azayed sits alone on his large bed, rendered completely silent by her overwhelming energy. He remains frozen in place, still trying to process the whirlwind that just occurred. The blonde man wonders what kind of strange person he has just appointed as his physician. He lets out a weary sigh and decides the best thing to do is go back to sleep. Azayed flops back onto his pillows with a heavy and exhausted bed. He lies staring at the ceiling, frustrated to find that he can no longer fall back asleep. The scene shifts as Serena closes the heavy bedroom door behind her. A maid asks if she has finished her duties, and Serena confirms that the checkup is complete. The maid smiles kindly, noting that Serena's cheeks look quite red after the consultation. Serena asks the maid to prevent any interruptions during her future sessions to maintain His Majesty's privacy. She then asks the maid to find similar light-colored curtains for her own room to catch the sunlight. Serena tells the maid there is no rush to change them at this very moment. She reaches into her brown medical bag to pull something out for the maid. Serena gently wraps a warm scarf around the maid's neck, noting how cold the weather still is. Serena looks determined for her first day. Serena offers a checkup to the maid, who gratefully accepts. Serena departs, promising to see the maid again soon. The maid watches Serena leave with admiration. Serena's rapid promotion and newfound authority draw significant attention. The maid excitedly imagines a destined romance between Serena and the Emperor. The maid paces nervously outside the bedroom, fearing the Emperor's reaction. A stern command to stop touching him startles the young maid. Overhearing the tension, the maid wonders what is happening inside. She listens intently to the Santafen. The maid overhears intimate-sounding dialogue and lets out a shocked scream. Reflection begins on the current situation.
She becomes lost in romantic daydreams again.
The maid reflects on Serena's kindness with a blush.
She enthusiastically vows to support the pair and choose curtains.
The emperor reacts with confusion to a sudden change. The maid confirms the curtains were changed per Serena's murders. Serena's bold declaration to change the curtains haunts Azayed.
The maid apologizes, explaining that Serena ordered all blackout curtains removed. He is taken aback by Serena's thoroughness.
Azayed unexpectedly allows the change, surprising the hopeful maid.
The maid is delighted by his compliance.
The blonde man gazes into the sunlight.
Playful teasing follows his uncharacteristic behavior.
The maid leaves the room to attend to her duties. He decides to rest while reviewing the provided documents.
A sudden realization jolts him awake.
He sits up abruptly, sensing something unusual.
He feels a strange sensation on himself.
He observes the effect of the sunlight.
He grudgingly admits that the new curtains have benefits.
He reflects on the mystery of Serena's hidden past.
He realizes her family would have exploited her power.
He empathizes with the scrutiny a hidden talent faces.
He finds a shared connection in their loneliness.
Serena enjoys a quiet lunch while studying.
She reflects on the vast differences in her current life.
She demands a full record of the emperor's diet.
She focuses on investigating any potential triggers for his condition.
She recalls the fatal nature of his magical imbalance. Serena is horrified by the emperor's sugar-heavy diet.
A mysterious cat interrupts her shock at his poor nutrition.
A fluffy cat suddenly snatches her important documents.
She is momentarily distracted by the cat.
She kindly asks the cat to release the paper. The papers scatter as chaos ensues.
Serena frantically chases the cat through the palace grounds.
She struggles to keep up with the nimble creature.
Her pursuit of the cat continues relentlessly.
She reaches the end of her rope as the cat disappears. Serena is startled by a sudden rustling in the bushes. She lunges forward with a shout, determined to catch her target. Serena triumphantly catches the fluffy cat pie as leaves scatter around them. A gentle breeze brushes past Serena as she notices someone nearby.
Serena wonders who the mysterious, long-haired man standing before her could be.
She notes that she has never seen his face around the palace before. Serena observes that he does not look like a typical member of the imperial staff. Serena is startled as the man approaches her in the cap.
The dark-haired man returns the stolen document, noting it has become quite white.
He offers to compensate Serena for the trouble his cat has caused her.
The man smiles kindly while holding the damp document in his gloved hand.
He casts a restoration spell with a serious and focused expression.
A bright green magical energy flows from his hand into the paper.
The document begins to shine as the magic takes full effect. Serena is amazed to see the document completely restored to its original state.
She holds the repaired paper while staring at the man in disbelief.
The stranger questions if Serena was recently appointed to a position within the palace. Serena nervously confirms her new role as she takes the document back.
Serena senses something suspicious about the man and decides to remain cautious.
Serena quickly makes an excuse to leave after declining to give her name.
She flees the scene with a cheerful wave, leaving the man behind.
The dark-haired man wonders if the physician is truly that busy.
He examines a small golden pin that Serena seems to have dropped.
He ponders the name Serena Vincent as he stares at the horizon.
He questions if there was actually another daughter in the Vincent family.
A blurry memory of a golden-haired woman begins to surface.
The golden-haired figure walks toward a bright light in a distant memory. A young blonde child reaches out desperately toward the receding figure. The young boy cries out for his mother as he watches her go.
Azayed wakes up in the grand library with a weary groan.
He weakly asks someone to stop touching him as he regains consciousness. A thud sounds as a desperate Azayed clings to Serena, begging her not to go.
Serena looks down at the emperor in complete and utter confusion.
She reassures him that she will stay until his illness is fully healed. Serena notes with relief that he doesn't appear to have a fever. A red-faced Azayed reacts to the situation with a sudden, embarrassed poof. He snaps back to his prickly self, demanding to know why she is there.
Serena cheerfully announces it is time for him to take his medicine. They bicker as Serena insists he must drink the bitter medicine while it's warm.
Serena bribes the reluctant emperor with a luxurious limited edition chocolate. A clack sounds as Azayed finishes the drink, earning Serena's patronizing praise. He complains that she is openly treating him like a small child.
Serena realizes she forgot to mention an important new medical rule.
Serena announces a strict restriction on his sugar intake while he questions her bribe.
Serena delivers a long lecture on the health risks of excessive sugar and inflammation.
Azayad compares her to a strict teacher who only knows how to say no.
Serena simply responds with a bright and energetic smile.
Footsteps echo as the pair walks through the sunlit palace hallway. Serena excitedly leads the reluctant and exhausted emperor toward the gardens.
She explains that regular walks are essential for improving his stamina and mood.
The blonde man flatly refuses the suggestion with a stern and unwavering expression. The purple-haired woman tries to negotiate, asking how he feels about a sunny afternoon walk followed by a snack. She adds that the exercise will surely improve his appetite and make the treat taste even better.
Serena smiles with radiant confidence while the emperor watches her, his expression remaining doubtful as flower petals drift between them.
He tells her to let go of his hand, insisting he can walk on his own. Serena agrees cheerfully, relieved she doesn't have to keep dragging him along. Azayad asks when she first started using mana and magic. Serena replies that she isn't sure of the exact time and has no memory of the moment it manifested. The pair continues their walk down the grand, sunlit palace corridor in silence. Serena explains that her ability to send or extract mana is quite strange. Serena thinks to herself that she actually discovered this unique ability by chance during her past life.
A dark memory surfaces of His Majesty dying after a mana overload occurred, while her own mana core reacted as she desperately tried to stop it. She reflects that while a mana core usually allows for magic, she discovered she could use no magic at all despite her late awakening.
Serena notes that her only talent is managing mana, acknowledging why he might find it fascinating since most people use unique magic after awakening. The blonde man bluntly calls her ability quite useless. Serena feels a flash of irritation, wondering to herself if she should just let him die.
She holds his hand, explaining that his mana core is unstable and becomes dangerous with temperature changes, so she will prescribe a treatment to stabilize it. She tells him to follow her instructions.
Serena offers a bright and encouraging smile as she finishes her medical explanation. The blonde man stares at her with a stunned and silent expression.
Serena continues to look at him with a cheerful and unwavering grin.
Azayad smirks and admits that she is finally acting like a real doctor. Serena playfully reminds him that he was the one who hired her and claims she was already a capable doctor even before she was paid.
He tells her to shut up as he walks away. Serena chases after him, shouting that their consultation is not over yet.
Serena walks through the palace hallway while reviewing her medical to-do list. Having finished her morning duties, she considers resting or reading in her room. She notices the palace staff looking unusually busy and wonders what is causing the commotion. A maid named Mari, identified as Serena's dedicated palace maid, greets her with a cheerful spin. Mari asks where she is headed. Serena replies that she is going back to her room after finishing all her afternoon consultations.
Serena offers to help Mari with her heavy basket, and the maid gratefully accepts.
Serena recalls that they were close even before her regression and feels a genuine attachment to the kind maid.
Mari explains that everyone is busy preparing for an upcoming banquet. Serena is surprised by the news.
A formal notification announces that the delegation from Count Harrison has returned to the palace.
Serena recognizes the name, noting that he is one of the Emperor's 4 closest childhood friends.
An illustration introduces the Reckless Four: Nocturne Harrison, Lily Lowell, Jack Gordon, and Leonard Carter.
A narrative note mentions these 4 have protected the Emperor since their childhood. They serve as the Emperor's limbs and shadows and were granted their own estates for their loyalty. Serena wonders if the Emperor knew from a young age that these 4 would become the pillars of the nation.
She recalls that a welcome home banquet was also held at this exact time in her past life.
She suddenly pauses as a realization strikes her. Serena realizes she has forgotten a critical detail about that specific banquet. A horrifying vision of the Emperor lying unconscious amidst a bed of white flowers appears in her mind. The memory reveals that he collapsed due to a severe allergy.
Serena berates herself for forgetting such a vital event as Mari watches her in confusion. She determines she must find the cause immediately, as it would be unacceptable for the Emperor to collapse at a palace banquet.
Mari asks if she is okay. Serena nervously insists that she is fine. Serena admits she just has a lot on her mind as they continue through the hallway.
They observe workers carrying local specialties. Serena spots a specific crate of wine and feels a jolt of recognition.
She identifies the Payan Mountain fruit wine as the culprit, realizing it was served for the first time at this banquet. She asks Mari if it would be strange for a physician to attend the event. Mari suggests the Emperor might invite her personally since they are so close. Serena is shocked by the suggestion. Serena imagines the Emperor's prickly and cold reaction, realizing that from her perspective, they aren't close at all.
She asks why Mari is heading toward the incinerator. Mari explains she is throwing away old flowers as the head maid is replacing them.
Mari asks how Serena knew where the incinerator was. Serena makes a quick excuse about hearing it was nearby. Mari asks who His Majesty will be attending the banquet with. Serena nervously wonders if she can make it through the event safely.
Mari notes Count Lowell isn't coming and he won't be going with Serena either. Serena mutters that they aren't that close anyway.
Serena asks if Mari likes the Count, and the maid explains that Count Lowell is busy guarding the northern borders from beasts.
Mari excitedly confirms her admiration, calling the Count the legendary Queen of the North and the only woman to receive a red ring from the Emperor. Mari leans in close to Serena, preparing to share a secret she claims is strictly between the two of them. Mari whispers a scandalous palace rumor about a love triangle involving the Emperor, Sir Carter, and Count Lowell. Serena is baffled by the ridiculous gossip, wondering how such a novel-like situation could even be possible. Narrative text clarifies that the rumor is false and prepares to reveal the identity of the person actually engaged to the Emperor. Lucy Carter, identified as Sir Carter's younger sister with long red hair, was the woman once engaged to the Emperor. Serena considers whether she should correct the rumor before calling out to Mari to get her attention. Serena flatly states that the Emperor already has a woman, causing a shocked reaction from the wide-eyed maid. Serena hints that the woman is someone Mari knows, noting that Lucy Carter has visited the palace several times. Serena tells Mari to hurry toward the incinerator as the maid stands paralyzed and dazed by the news. Mara's eyes widen in realization as she concludes that a fellow maid's previous gossip must have been true. A massive realization hits Mari with the force of a thunderclap as she contemplates the identity of the Emperor's woman. Mari recalls a conversation where Anna tried to tell her the secret, though Mari had initially demanded proof. Mari completely misinterprets Serena's words, imagining that the physician just confessed to being the Emperor's secret lover. Mari joyfully chases after Serena, eager to witness a palace romance unfolding right before her own eyes. A single beautiful flower sits peacefully on a table, having been specially prepared by the enthusiastic maid. Serena stands on her balcony, closing her eyes and savoring the peaceful warmth of the afternoon sunlight. A sudden, sharp knock at the door interrupts Serena's quiet moment as someone calls out for her. Serena turns around with a start, wondering who has come to see her so unexpectedly. Serena is surprised to find a sweating and worried Sir Carter standing at her entrance. Carter explains that Azayed urgently requests her presence and has sent him all the way to her quarters. A worried Serena asks if something has happened to the Emperor, and Carter confirms her fears. Serena sprints down the hallway, shouting that she will go to his side immediately. Serena asks if his condition is critical, but Carter sheepishly admits it isn't actually anything serious. Carter explains it is just time for his checkup, making Serena suspect he is using her as an excuse to get away. A heavy thud sounds as the pair arrives at the massive, ornate doors of the Emperor's chamber. Serena catches her breath, preparing herself to enter the room despite her lingering suspicions about the situation. A sudden, sharp shattering sound echoes as Carter freezes in shock while opening the door. Serena's expression twists into one of sheer panic and dread as she looks into the room. Serena screams for the Emperor as she rushes inside, terrified that he has finally collapsed. The scene shifts to 1 hour prior, showing the grand palace building bathed in the morning sun. A woman's voice echoes through the hall, expressing her joy at meeting with the Emperor. Azayed looks away with a silent and tired expression as he endures the unwanted visit. Ophelia Greenwood is introduced as the young lady from a prestigious noble family. Azayed coldly asks what brings her to his presence without any prior notice. Ophelia smiles brightly and claims she stopped by on business to convey something important to him. Azayed sighs in annoyance at the sight of a jar filled with bright red fruit. Azayed points out that she is using banquet preparations as a poor excuse to wander the palace freely. Ophelia mentions she made tea using fruit from the Payan Kingdom and wanted him to taste it first. She orders her maid to bring the tea set, dismissing Azayed's clear lack of interest in the offer. Azayed mocks her for having too much free time, but Ophelia insists she is always available for him. Azayed yawns and rejects her offer to try the tea, noting she is trying too hard to become his banquet partner. Ophelia ignores his dismissal and insists on pouring the tea for him herself. A sharp click sounds as Azayed watches her stir the fruit tea, noting she doesn't care about his words. Narration explains that the Greenwood family was instrumental in the founding of the Croton Empire. Ophelia was once engaged to the first prince and was expected to become the next empress. After the first prince's death and Azayed's rise to the throne, the nobility turned their backs on him. Ophelia has now returned to the palace to claim the vacant position of empress. Azayed remembers with bitterness how Ophelia ignored his mother as the woman lay dying. Azayed stares with a glare, questioning how she dares. Ophelia reacts with shock as Azayed cancels their tea engagement. He cites his physician's orders to avoid sweets, leaving Ophelia frozen.
Ophelia questions if he is referring to the new female physician.
She insults Serena's lineage while the Emperor decides their meeting is over. Ophelia desperately calls out as the blonde name walks away.
She argues that a noble should not heed someone with an unknown background.
Azayad stops in his tracks, his expression turning cold and menacing.
He slowly acknowledges her words while continuing toward the exit.
Narrative text explains his realization of why she continues to babble.
Azayad looms over the seated woman, questioning his own birth by her logic. Ophelia panics as Leonard knocks, announcing the scheduled medical examination. Azayad dismisses Ophelia again as the tea set begins to rattle. A sudden splash of hot tea hits the Emperor's leg. Splosh! A sharp crash sounds as the porcelain shatters against the floor. Crash!
Serena and Leonard burst through the doors after hearing the commotion. Everyone panics as they find the Emperor kneeling on the ground.
Ophelia tries to take command, telling the others to move aside. Serena identifies herself as the physician and demands Ophelia stop interfering. The physician firmly orders the noblewoman to leave for the patient's sake. Serena calls the woman out by name, mocking her previous clumsy actions.
Ophelia makes a weak excuse as Leonard tries to settle the dispute.
Serena prepares for treatment as Ophelia begs for a merciful punishment.
A loud thud echoes as the heavy doors are finally closed. Thud! Azayad finds the scene hilarious, laughing at how Serena handled the situation. He turns bright red when Serena insists on removing his trousers.
The initial cleaning of the burn wound is finally finished.
Serena bandages his leg, opting to tear the fabric instead of stripping him. She explains the risks of infection while Azayad attempts to dismiss her. Azayad feels overwhelmed by the physician's relentless and constant nagging. The blonde man stares ahead with a stunned and silent expression. Serena strictly forbids any alcohol, much to the Emperor's annoyance.
Serena spots an opportunity to handle his drinks at the banquet.
Azayad questions if she just wants an excuse to attend the event. She promises to protect him from his hidden allergies and other dangers. Azayad ponders the potential dangers Serena mentioned while she blocks Ophelia. He agrees to let her attend under a specific condition. Azayad smiles warmly and invites Serena to be his official banquet partner.
Serena is frozen in shock, wondering about the Emperor's usual companions.
Azayad offers to cancel the idea, but Serena enthusiastically accepts the honor. He promises to provide her with a dress that avoids noble extravagance. A tailor arrives unexpectedly the following day on the Emperor's behalf. Bright sunlight fills the room as a new day begins. Mari gasps in sheer amazement at the transformation before her. Serena appears in a stunning and elaborate golden yellow gown. Mari heaps on the praise while Serena worries the outfit is too flashy. Leonard knocks at the door to announce his arrival for the escort. A quick click sounds as Serena invites the knight to enter. Click. Mari insists on doing some final grooming before Serena departs with Leonard.
Serena thanks Mari as the preparations for the grand banquet are complete.
Rhythmic footsteps resonate through the grand, ornate hallway.
Leonard and Serena walk together in silence. Leonard asks if Serena is all right, and she admits her debut banquet nerves.
Leonard laughs and explains the banquet is merely another professional task.
Serena thanks Leonard after he praises her resilient and practical mindset. Serena notes how gracefully Leonard matches her pace while escorting her.
Serena observes that Leonard seems unusually stiff and formal today.
She wonders how such a man joined the notorious Rowdy Four. Serena asks Leonard how he became so close with the Emperor.
Leonard pauses for a moment as he prepares to answer.
He explains that their unique friendship began when they were children.
A somber banquet followed the death of Leonard's older brother. Young Leonard felt the heavy gaze of nobles as the new heir. Cruel gossip about family blemishes surrounded the grieving boy. A rude noble brat approached Leonard with a mocking greeting.
The brat taunted Leonard about his inheritance following his brother's death.
Furious, Leonard punched the boy as Serena reacts with shock. Seeking solitude, Leonard found a blonde boy sitting by a fountain. Leonard looks upon the young emperor for the very first time. Serena asks if Azayad offered words of comfort back then. Young Azayad rudely told Leonard to get lost and leave.
Serena asks Leonard if he actually retreated after being told off.
Out of spite, Leonard sat directly beside the confused young prince. Serena wonders how they ever managed to become friends after that. The two boys sat together in complete silence under the moon. Azayad spoke first as he eventually got up to leave the fountain.
The young prince surprised Leonard by acknowledging him by his full name.
Serena notes that the Emperor knew about Leonard even back then. Leonard believes Azayad purposefully stayed by his side that night. Leonard claims the Emperor cared for others even at a young age.
Leonard looks down with a soft and reminiscent smile.
Serena processes the unexpected kindness of the Emperor's childhood actions.
A sudden, quick tap sounds as they approach the Emperor's location.
Serena views the Emperor as he sits majestically amidst white flowers. Serena gracefully bows while greeting the radiant son of Croton. Azaid and Serena trade playful barbs about their unrecognizable formal appearances. Orchestral music fills the air in the grand golden ballroom.
Serena admits her family never hosted a debutante celebration for her.
She wonders if the Emperor was always this composed and regal. Azayed considers her lack of experience an even greater honor.
A soft touch sounds as Azayed reaches for Hyand.
Azayed claims it is a great honor to be her partner.
The Emperor kisses Serena's hand with sudden and unexpected chivalry. Serena is left completely frozen and speechless by his bold gesture.
Serena humbly acknowledges the immense honor the Emperor has granted her.
Azayed haughtily invites her to feel free to appreciate the moment.
Serena struggles to adjust to such intense and formal royal etiquette.
Azayed leads her forward, promising to watch her performance closely tonight.
Azayed smiles, eager to see if she meets his high expectations.
Serena enthusiastically accepts the challenge with a determined nod.
Soft murmurs fill the air of the grand golden banquet hall.
A rhythmic clicking sounds as a pair of formal shoes makes its way forward. Azayed and Serena make their grand entrance together, drawing every eye in the room. White flowers bloom in abundance, framing the opulent palace setting. The nobility continues to whisper and stare as the Emperor's arrival is noted.
Rhythmic footsteps resonate through the hall as the Emperor and his partner walk through the crowd.
Serena notices the uncomfortable stares and thinks about how this is far worse than she imagined. The purple-haired woman tries to maintain her composure despite the heavy, judgmental atmosphere.
Azayed speaks with a commanding presence, ordering Nocton Harrison to step forward. The dark purple-haired man acknowledges the order with a respectful confirmation.
Serena is shocked to realize the man before her is the suspicious individual from her memory. The physician is stunned to learn that the man is actually Count Harrison. Narration reveals he was the illegitimate son of Duke Greenwood, who became the Emperor's trusted confidant.
Azayed welcomes him back warmly while the Count expresses his deep gratitude.
The Emperor encourages Serena to ignore the crowd and simply enjoy the festivities. The orchestral performance continues as the musicians play their instruments with great skill.
Serena realizes she wouldn't have recognized the Count if it weren't for this formal introduction.
Azayed notices her reaction and asks if she is acquainted with Count Harrison.
Serena panics as the blonde man points out her clearly startled expression.
Serena hesitates, wondering if she should admit to having seen him briefly before.
Lady Ophelia Greenwood appears, adorned in an elaborate green gown and fine jewelry.
Azaid coldly acknowledges her presence while Serena watches with a wary expression.
Ophelia claims her heart shattered when he left, then asks about his health.
The noblewoman hides behind her fan while her companions react with dramatic emotional displays.
The other women praise Ophelia's sincere and wholehearted devotion to the Emperor.
Serena thinks to herself that Ophelia could have shown her face earlier if she were truly worried.
Serena remembers hearing that the Duke of Greenwood had desperately sought an audience with the Emperor. The physician scoffs at the family's audacity to claim worry after causing the Emperor's injury.
Ophelia offers a toast to the Emperor's health while Serena prepares to intervene.
Serena blocks the offer, explaining that the Emperor is abstaining from alcohol for his recovery.
Ophelia identifies her as Lady Vincent, the personal physician, sparking gossip among the surrounding nobles. Murmurs spread through the crowd regarding Serena's lineage before Azayed interrupts to clarify.
Azayed places a hand on Serena's shoulder, announcing she is here tonight as his partner.
The Emperor firmly demands that Lady Greenwood show his partner the proper respect. The blonde man and the purple-haired woman stand together as the crowd watches in silence. Ophelia argues that restricting the Emperor from even a single glass seems excessive.
Serena panics internally, knowing the Emperor's allergies would cause him to collapse if he drank.
Ophelia urges the Emperor not to embarrass her by rejecting her toast so coldly.
Serena suddenly reaches out and snatches the glass from the noblewoman's hand. Serena announces she will drink the toast on the Emperor's behalf to avoid any discomfort. The crowd gasps in disbelief as Serena downs the entire glass of wine in one go.
Serena holds up the empty glass with a triumphant and satisfied look.
Serena cheerfully declares the drink delicious while Ophelia stands frozen and complete shock. Ophelia begins to sway and stumble as her companions rush to catch her. Azayed is forced to cover his mouth to hide his sudden urge to laugh.
The orchestral music continues to drift through the grand ballroom.
A swift movement of the bow signals a change in the musical tempo.
Serena's attention is caught as she notices the shift in the background music.
Ophelia desperately tries to recover, asking the Emperor for the honor of the first dance.
Serena is left speechless and wide-eyed by the blonde man's unexpected response to the request.
Azayed coldly instructs Lady Ophelia to return to her original partner while she stands frozen in confusion. Nocton Harrison approaches with a gentle smile as Ophelia gasps in recognition of the man before her.
Noctin pulls Ophelia away while she angrily refuses to dance with him, causing Azayed to chuckle. Noctin winks, deciding to play the role of a loyal servant instead of a dancing partner.
Chibi Azayed whispers to a wide-eyed Chibi Serena, who is impressed by his social maneuvering.
Serena realizes that Noctin still maintains a surprisingly good relationship with Lady Greenwood despite leaving the family. Serena is startled as the blonde man suddenly offers his hand for a dance. Narration notes that the song will end if they continue to spend their time talking. Azayed and Serena face each other as they prepare to take the dance floor. Azayed takes her hand, promising that his own skill will be enough for the both of them. The pair begins their dance as the surrounding nobles watch their graceful movements.
Chibi Serena worries about her footwork while Chibi Azayed remains silent and composed.
Azayed teases Serena about being a drinker while she indignantly reminds him she was saving his life. Azayed simply offers a short, approving response while Serena looks on with a flustered expression.
The Emperor offers a warm and genuine smile as they continue their dance.
Serena's attention is suddenly drawn to a change in the Emperor's physical state. Azayed begins to stumble and sway as Serena catches him, noting his skin is unusually red.
Serena nervously asks if his sudden closeness is part of the dance, and he weakly confirms.
Azayed breaks out in a cold sweat and tells her to be quiet as his condition worsens. Serena asks once more if his stumbling is part of the performance, and he manages a pained affirmation. Azayed leans in close, repeating his request for her to remain quiet.
Serena panics as she imagines herself being executed for neglecting her duties if the Emperor collapses.
Chibi Serena desperately begs the Emperor to hold on and not cause a scene in the hall. Azayed breathes heavily while struggling to hide his deteriorating physical condition from the crowd. He expresses concern over the rumors that would surely spread if his illness were revealed tonight.
Serena notices the rashes on his neck and wonders how he could be reacting when he hasn't touched alcohol.
Azayed nearly collapses against her, making Serena realize he can barely even stand on his own.
Serena notes that his labored breathing is tickling her ear as she supports his weight.
Serena urges him to remember if he consumed anything at all since arriving.
Azayed remembers drinking a glass of juice, and Serena realizes it must have contained pion fruit extract.
Serena tells him there is an emergency painkiller inside her necklace locket and prepares to retrieve it.
Azayed leans down and takes the pill directly from the locket with his mouth. The Emperor successfully retrieves the pill from the necklace while leaning into Serena's shoulder. They stand close together amidst the white flowers as the dance comes to an end. Azayed lets out a relieved sigh, claiming he feels a bit more alive now.
Chibi Serena is left in a state of total shock by the Emperor's bold way of taking the medicine.
The audience applauds as the pair bows at the conclusion of their performance. Azayed suggests they leave the hall, while Serena reacts with a confused expression. Narration declares that they must head to the terrace for immediate treatment.
Serena and Azayed walk away from the banquet as rhythmic footsteps resonate behind them.
Serena warns him that the painkiller will only provide temporary relief before his symptoms return. She confirms that his fever and rashes are clear signs of an allergic reaction. Sir Carter approaches the pair, asking what has happened to the Emperor.
Serena explains the situation, and Leonard offers to escort them to a nearby private room. Leonard leads them to a secluded area and promises to wait outside the door.
Serena instructs the knight to ensure that no word of the Emperor's condition leaks out.
Serena enters the room as Azayed lies down, planning her next steps to lower his fever and soothe his skin.
Azayed looks up from the couch as Serena approaches him to begin the treatment. Serena bluntly orders the Emperor to take off his clothes, leaving him completely flabbergasted.
Serena holds out a small jar, explaining she needs to apply the medicine directly to his skin.
Chibi Serena offers to undress the Emperor, but he insists on doing it himself. The Emperor mutters about the physician's swift medicine preparation as she stands ready.
Azayed removes his shirt, revealing red hives that have already spread across his back.
Serena applies a cold ointment to soothe the itchy red bumps on his skin.
The physician identifies the peon fruit as the cause while plotting how to address it.
Serena asks about his earlier drink, and the Emperor admits he isn't sure of its contents.
Azayed describes the drink's sharp tang and coconut-like sweetness to his personal physician.
Serena confirms it was a ram fruit beverage, explaining his uncommon allergy to its acid.
Serena produces an antidote potion, surprising the Emperor with her quick deduction.
The purple-haired woman holds up a small bottle of medicine. Serena explains her vast knowledge of herbs and urges him to drink her homemade remedy.
Azayed swallows the medicine while the physician cheers for his cooperation.
Serena hopes the Emperor will always be this cooperative as he finishes the potion. Serena plots to be more assertive just as a sudden noise startles her.
A loud voice demands they move aside, interrupting the pair in the private room. Serena recognizes the voice as belonging to Lady Greenwood.
The physician wonders why it went quiet as the Emperor tries to get dressed.
Serena stops him from putting on his shirt, insisting the ointment needs to dry first.
The pair bickers over his state of undress until Serena has a sudden realization.
Chibi Serena's eyes light up as a new idea comes to mind.
Serena instructs the Emperor to stay put while she handles the situation herself.
The physician lunges forward to block the view just as the door begins to move.
The scene shifts to a decorative mirror as a low groan echoes. Serena frantically asks if the Emperor is all right. Serena notes the room's sudden brightness as she looks toward the doorway. Sir Carter and Lady Greenwood stare in disbelief at the sight before them. The physician realizes her positioning over the shirtless Emperor looks incredibly compromising. A sudden gasp sounds as everyone freezes in a moment of pure shock. Lady Greenwood is horrified by the scene unfolding within the hidden room. Serena wonders how the lady got past the knight as the door swings open.
Serena notices her hand is resting on a hidden button beneath the carpet. A cold chill runs down her spine as she realizes she opened the door herself. A mechanical whirring sound accompanies the secret doors sliding open further. Serena is caught in a panic as the mechanism reveals their awkward position to the onlookers.
The red-haired knight and the noblewoman witness the physician hovering over the Emperor. Serena desperately tries to slam the secret door shut to hide the scene.
The door mechanism grinds as it struggles to respond to her frantic movements.
Sir Carter shields his eyes while the noblewoman remains frozen in place.
Serena attempts to explain the misunderstanding to the shocked witnesses.
Lady Greenwood bursts into tears, sobbing over the scandalous sight. The physician chases after the fleeing duo to prevent rumors from spreading. Serena worries about the fallout while Sir Carter offers to handle the situation. The red-haired knight gives a thumbs up, telling her there's no need to worry. Carter winks and claims he saw nothing, leaving Serena looking completely defeated.
The knight makes a quick exit, leaving the pair alone once more.
Serena collapses to the floor, lamenting that her reputation is utterly ruined. A brown-haired maid stands ready with a fresh set of linens.
Later, Serena asks about the specific nature of the rumors circulating the palace.
The maid mentions the banquet incident while Serena insists it was just urgent medical business.
Mary teases her about the secret meeting, prompting an indignant shout from Serena.
Serena confirms that Lady Greenwood ran off crying but denies the rest of the rumors. Narration describes the lady's reclusion while Serena reflects on the rumors spreading about her meeting.
Mary offers to keep Serena's secret as the physician realizes how widespread the news is. Serena resolves to ignore the rumors and focus entirely on her work. A series of quick, rhythmic footsteps sound as Mary asks where Serena is going.
Serena loudly insists she's going to work as Mary teases her about the Emperor. The scene shifts to the Imperial National Library located within the palace annex.
Narration notes that despite being a national library, its location makes it exclusive to the palace.
A soft sequence of footsteps sounds as Serena enters the library, delighted by the access.
Serena takes in the scent of the books, reflecting on her past dreams. Serena hopes to visit the Greenwood Private Library someday when she spots a figure nearby.
Serena is surprised to encounter Count Harrison, who greets her with a calm expression.
Count Harrison greets Lady Vincent while she politely returns the hello.
Serena wonders how he knows her name and if someone else mentioned her.
Count Harrison begins to explain how he came to know her identity. He returns her lost royal physician badge, explaining a cat named Pie swiped it.
Count Harrison notes Serena is alone today because pets are prohibited in the library.
Serena laughs awkwardly as he jokes about a cat stealing books from the shelves.
Serena thanks him for the banquet incident while he apologizes for his sister's trouble. An awkward silence falls over the two as Serena feels the heavy atmosphere.
Serena makes an excuse to leave, claiming she is busy and needs to find a book.
A few quick footsteps sound as Serena hurries away from the gap.
Serena finally spots the book she was looking for tucked away on a shelf. Serena struggles to reach the high shelf, wishing she was a bit taller.
A hand reaches over her to grab the book, asking if it is the right one. Count Harrison hands her the book while leaning close to her shoulder.
Serena is momentarily dazed by the dramatic and flowery moment.
A sharp tap sounds as Serena thanks him while wondering if he was following her.
Count Harrison asks if she is researching the Emperor's illness based on the book title.
Serena denies the claim, insisting her interest is purely personal to protect her patient. Serena reflects on her secret as an awakener who cannot utilize magic.
Count Harrison recommends a different book, surprising Serena with his knowledge.
He hands her a more detailed book while explaining the first was only a casebook. Serena flips through the new book and finds exactly what she was looking for. Count Harrison admits he is a non-awakener, but is glad the recommendation helped.
Serena brings up the documents he previously restored for her in the past.
Serena explains the documents became wet and unreadable again, so she had them reissued.
A sharp tap sounds as Serena suggests the palace mana field blocked his magic.
Count Harrison is left speechless, stunned by the idea of his magic being undone.
Serena realizes she may have offended him and quickly says she misspoke.
Serena teases him about having terrible magic skills, immediately fearing she sounded aggressive.
Count Harrison remains silent and pensive, pondering the failure of his magic. Serena nervously suggests the strong mana field made his magic easily blocked.
Serena tells him even skilled mages make mistakes, trying to comfort him.
Count Harrison admits it could be true, while Serena continues her nervous laughter.
Serena thanks him again for all his help with the documents in the batch.
Serena asks how she can repay him since he already appears so healthy. Count Harrison claims he is actually quite frail and exhausted from reading and research.
Count Harrison hands Serena his card, inviting her to contact him for recommendations. Serena is stunned to learn the Count has already read every book in the library.
The purple-haired librarian bows respectfully as he prepares to depart.
Serena offers a polite bow in return.
Examining the brooch, Serena decides the man is decent for returning it personally.
Looking at the book, she wonders if she was being too sensitive earlier.
Chibi Serena hums a happy tune while deciding to start reading immediately. A soft talk sounds as Serena walks, admiring the book's clear organization.
A quick click sounds as Serena notices a letter resting on her desk.
Flipping through papers, she doubts anyone would try to contact her privately.
A sudden ooh sounds as Serena reads an urgent summons from the Viscount.
A cold whoosh sounds as she realizes the letter is from the Vincent family.
Gripping the letter, she bristles at their assumption that she will still obey.
A loud rip sounds as Serena destroys the message from her estranged family.
She reflects on how far she has come since her past life.
Serena recalls the prestige of being the Emperor's partner at the banquet.
A weary sounds as she scoffs at the thought of returning to that house.
She smiles, knowing that leaving that household was her best life decision.
Years ago, a woman told young Serena she would live in the Vincent estate.
Little Serena stood before the mansion, clutching her only suitcase.
A rough thump sounds as she is pushed inside the massive house.
A heavy creak sounds as the gates close, separating her from her mother.
Young Serena wondered why she was the only one forced to live there.
A metallic clang sounds as the estate gates are locked tight. A heavy thud sounds as she discovers a family portrait that excludes her.
A sharp humph sounds as the Viscountess yells at her for stare. The woman coldly orders Serena to follow her to her new room.
A quick talk sounds as Serena follows, watched by the other two children. A chilling whoosh sounds as the servants look down on the new child.
A loud slam sounds as the door shuts and she is warned to be quiet.
Young Serena cries out for her mother in the oppressive darkness. A soft thud sounds as the child collapses onto the dusty floor.
She was abandoned in a worn-out attic to survive without any care.
A weary sounds as Serena wipes sweat while working in the heat.
Serena toils in the dirt while the sound of laughter echoes nearby.
The family enjoys tea while Serena works like a servant in the distance. She endured being called a parasite and a rice bug by the household.
A rushing whoosh sounds as she refuses to let their insults break her.
She focused on entering the academy as her only way to escape. Forbidden from classes, Serena was forced to study everything on her own.
A soft tuck sounds as her nose bleeds from late-night exhaustion.
A firm drip sounds as she continues studying from dusk until dawn. At 17, Serena watches as Lydia Vincent receives her academy results.
The Viscountess celebrates, assuming her daughter's acceptance is a given.
A quick slide sounds as Serena quietly opens her own blue envelope. Lydia shrieks in fury upon discovering she has been rejected by the academy.
Lydia snatches the letter, revealing Serena was admitted as the top student.
Serena gasps in shock, overwhelmed by the results of her hard work.
A sharp rip sounds as the jealous Lydia crumples the acceptance notice.
A frantic patter sounds as they rush away while Serena celebrates internally.
A rapid thump-thump sounds as Serena's heart races with joy over the waved fee.
She triumphs in her heart, knowing she succeeded through her own strength.
Hallway scene transition.
In a flashback, young Serena thanks her father while he reminds her to graduate after the fortune he spent on her education. Serena holds a letter from the academy, feeling uneasy about whether they are sending entrance details so early.
Narration notes that despite her remarkable academic achievements, her status is deemed incompatible with the regulations.
A loud thud sounds as Serena reads the Academy's regretful notice that her admission is no longer possible.
A trembling sound follows as Serena clutches the paper, unable to believe her admission has been canceled.
Serena recalls her father's high expectations and her own promise to succeed.
Lydia enters the room and asks with a smug look if Serena has received some bad news.
Lydia mocks the idea of Serena being the top scorer and dismisses the acceptance notice as a mere mistake.
Serena repeats the word pity with a dark, subtle smile.
Narration declares that Lydia is the one who truly deserves pity in this situation.
Serena retorts that Lydia only passed by using money since she couldn't pass a single exam with her own brain.
Lydia is outraged by the nonsense and yells at Serena to know her limits.
Lydia calls her an uneducated bastard child and warns her to know her place instead of trying to attend a noble academy.
Lydia declares that Serena is destined to spend her life scrubbing mansion floors. A shrill laugh sounds as Serena reflects on the concept of her supposed destiny.
Serena realizes her life has always been dictated by the Viscountess mood, from the bread she ate to the leaky roof over her head.
Serena reflects that her current situation is no different from the hardships she faced as a helpless child.
A thud sounds as Serena slams her hand onto the desk, deciding to forget about the academy.
Serena resolves that no matter what happens, she is going to leave the house. A loud slap sounds in the grand hall on the day Serena finally becomes an adult.
The Viscountess berates Serena for her ungrateful behavior and tells her to leave with nothing if she is so determined to go.
Serena bows her head and politely thanks the madam for everything before she departs.
A cold wind whistles as Serena walks through the snow with a single suitcase in hand.
A soft whoosh of wind sounds as Serena pauses to look back one last time.
Serena flashes a rude gesture toward the mansion, hoping everyone but her crumbles into ruin.
Her boots crunch in the snow as she spins around to move forward.
A loud gust of wind sounds as Serena confirms she is finally leaving the estate behind.
Serena looks toward the horizon with a determined and hopeful smile. Serena cheers that it is perfect weather for a fresh start. Crunching footsteps sound in the snow as Serena leaves without a backward glance 3 years ago. In the present, Serena crumbles a letter in anger, refusing to ever go back to that place. Serena stretches at her desk, questioning the meaning of a family that only contacts her now.
A loud thud sounds as she throws the crumpled letter into the trash, rejecting the invitation.
Narration notes that the same letters from her family continue to pile up in the wastebasket.
Quick footsteps sound in the palace as Serena calls out for the Emperor. Serena shouts for His Majesty to come out of hiding because it is time for his scheduled walk.
Serena sighs over her missing sweet lark while maids giggle about the rumors of her relationship with the Emperor.
The maids laugh and pretend not to notice Serena as she turns to look at them. Serena laments the persistent rumors when a voice suddenly calls out her name. Serena's eyes widen in absolute shock at the familiar voice.
The madam smiles and remarks on how much Serena has changed since she last saw her.
A cold silence falls over the room as Serena stammers out a greeting to the madam.
Serena asks how the woman managed to get here, while the madam acts as if Serena should have come to find her instead.
The madam suggests Serena should call her mother, prompting Serena to recall the beatings she received for doing so in the past.
Serena sharply stops the woman from speaking, noting they have no reason to be meeting like this.
Serena asks the woman once more how she was able to enter the palace grounds.
The madam flinches and explains that she simply told the guards she was here to see Serena.
Serena realizes the secondary palace security is lax and assumes her father authorized the visit.
The maids look on in curiosity as Serena lets out a frustrated groan.
Surrounded by blue and white flowers, Serena suggests moving to a more comfortable place to speak.
A soft, pleasant breeze sounds as the Emperor smiles with closed eyes.
Reclining on a lounge chair, the Emperor notes that he has found the perfect spot for a nap.
The Emperor recalls running away from his scheduled walk and discovering this hidden retreat. A gentle warmth surrounds him as he resolves to spend the day doing absolutely nothing.
A sharp click sounds as someone enters nearby, and the Emperor is startled to hear Serena's voice.
He listens as the madam mentions her unanswered letters, while Serena coldly replies that her silence was intentional.
The Emperor's eyes widen as he realizes the voice belongs to Serena Vincent.
He watches as the madam apologizes for past resentment and invites Serena to share a meal with the family.
The madam claims the Viscount has missed her, leaving Serena to ponder her next move. Serena firmly states that she has no desire to see the Viscount.
A nervous sweat sounds as the madam insists the Viscount regrets his past actions, but Serena remains skeptical.
Serena reminds her that he threw her out into the winter cold with absolutely nothing.
A nervous gulp sounds as the madam struggles to find a response.
The madam begins to weep, admitting they were too harsh when she first decided to leave the estate. She calls herself foolish and begs for just one meal together to make amends. Serena flashes a bright, forced smile that doesn't reach her eyes.
Serena rejects the offer precisely because of the effort the madam took to find her.
A sharp thud sounds as the madam suddenly grabs Serena's hands, begging for forgiveness before Serena can even react. Serena is stunned as the woman hysterically admits to being far too cruel in the past.
The madam confesses she treated Serena like a parasite because she couldn't accept her husband's affair.
A cold, heavy atmosphere sounds as the truth of their past treatment hangs in the air.
A sharp smack sounds as Serena pulls her hands away, asking if the madam truly expects her understanding now.
Serena reflects on how she was always the target for the family's deep-seated frustrations. Serena maintains a sharp, unwavering smile amidst a field of white roses. A sudden flinch sounds as the Emperor realizes Serena is looking toward the door where he is hiding.
A soft whoosh sounds as the Emperor ducks away, scolding himself for getting carried away while listening.
He admits to himself that he never intended to eavesdrop on her private business.
Serena looks toward the garden, wondering where the Emperor has disappeared to this time.
A soft fluttering sounds as Serena questions how long he has been hiding in that spot. Serena's gaze falls directly on the Emperor as she questions why he is emerging from his hiding place. Serena decides that just for today, she will pretend she didn't notice him listening.
A quick dash sounds as the madam makes one final desperate plea for Serena to visit just once. Serena lets out a long, weary sigh and finally agrees to visit to get the woman to leave.
Serena specifies that she alone will choose the time, which the madam eagerly accepts.
A sharp click sounds as the door closes and the madam calls out her final goodbye.
A quick, retreating step sounds as the madam finally departs the palace.
The Emperor cautiously peeks out from his hiding spot to confirm the room is empty.
He reflects on the reports he previously received regarding Serena's background.
He recalls that she seemed entirely uninterested in anything that wasn't related to his medical treatment. He watches her physician bag, mentally labeling her as a complete workaholic. He remembers an aide delivering reports about the daily letters she received from the Vincent family.
A soft sigh sounds as the Emperor finds the entire situation utterly ridiculous.
He realizes that despite his detailed reports, the woman in question had no idea she was being watched. He remembers her bringing his medicine and lets out a long, exhausted breath.
A sudden gasp sounds as the Emperor jumps in surprise when Serena suddenly asks what is troubling him.
Serena greets him with a calm and knowing smile. The Emperor is left completely speechless as he looks at her.
Serena tells him she finally found him and comments on what a pleasant spot he chose.
Serena teases him about his new hobby of eavesdropping, noting he freezes up just like a startled cat.
The blonde-haired Emperor blushes and stammers, insisting he wasn't eavesdropping before a sudden hiccup escapes him.
Serena teases the flustered Emperor, suggesting that a great ruler shouldn't be so easily scared.
The Emperor asks how she knew his location, but Serena only offers a playful and mysterious response.
A quick thud sounds as the Emperor hops down from the ledge to face Serena directly. Serena reflects that she didn't intend to break her silence, but seeing the Emperor has calmed her previous anger. Serena recalls the Emperor's legendary power to handle a fire that can consume anything in its path.
She smiles warmly while noting that she has come to rely on the Emperor's help over time. The Emperor looks at her with a confused and slightly grumpy expression, questioning why she is laughing.
Serena dismisses his question with a smile, while the Emperor remains suspicious of her sudden change in mood. Serena tells him there is no need to worry about the situation with her family. The Emperor promises to ensure she never has to return to the estate or see them at the palace.
He declares he will handle everything if that is what she wants, leaving Serena looking up at him with wide, sparkling eyes.
Serena thanks him, but clarifies she is only going out to buy herbs at her usual apothecary, not to see her family.
She insists she is perfectly fine and that the trip is just a convenient excuse for an outing. The narration notes that despite her current smile, she looked ready to cry only moments ago.
The Emperor notices how quickly she recovered, briefly recalling a memory of her as a lonely, somber child.
A soft rustle sounds as the Emperor gently places his hand on Serena's head. They stand together on the sunlit balcony in a rare moment of quiet intimacy.
The Emperor looks down at her with a gaze that has softened significantly from its usual coldness. A sudden blur of motion follows as the Emperor abruptly pulls away, startling Serena. The Emperor coughs into his hand, awkwardly claiming he's suddenly remembered something important he had to do. He tells her to enjoy her outing and walks away quickly, prompting Serena to call after him in confusion.
A quick snap sounds as Serena reaches out and grabs the Emperor's wrist to stop him from leaving.
The Emperor is completely flustered by the contact, but Serena calmly suggests that things are fine as they are. Serena smiles brightly and pulls him along, declaring that they should go for their scheduled walk together.
A soft sigh sounds as the chibi emperor admits he was only hiding to avoid his duties.
The Emperor experiences a strange sense of déjà vu as he is led away.
Serena happily leads the Emperor through the palace grounds, holding firmly onto his arm.
The Emperor wonders to himself how she can be so consistently arrogant and disobedient toward him. He recalls Serena aggressively waking him up and forcing him to eat vegetables, wondering if she fears for her life. He reflects that any other person would have been executed for blasphemy many times over for treating him this way. He realizes that he only tolerates her behavior because of the genuine effort she puts into his care.
The pair continues their stroll through the grand, arcane corridors of the palace gardens.
Serena feels a sense of peace, realizing she doesn't have to worry about anything when she's with him. Serena looks at the pink flowers, thinking they look like the soft grass swaying in a breeze.
The Emperor watches her silently, his mind filled with thoughts he cannot seem to stop.
He notices her physician bag, remembering that she almost always has it tied to her side. Serena turns her head slightly, her golden eyes catching the light as she notices his gaze.
The Emperor is momentarily captivated by the sight of her purple hair fluttering in the wind.
He quickly shakes off his thoughts, answering her question while scolding himself for his internal rambling.
Serena cheers happily now that he is finally moving, while the Emperor teases her for being too obvious.
Serena flashes a genuine, joyful smile that reaches her eyes, framed by blooming cherry blossoms. The Emperor looks back at her with a lingering, unreadable expression.
Saturday morning arrives in the bustling town. Serena stands in the street holding a suitcase and a red gift, looking up at the sign for the herb shop.
A cheerful bell rings as Serena opens the door and is greeted by a warm welcome.
A young orange-haired boy named Levin grins happily from behind the apothecary counter.
Serena greets Levin warmly and asks how he has been since their last meeting.
Serena hands him the cake she bought nearby, noting with a smile how much he has grown.
Serena asks about the shop owners, and Levin explains his parents are currently out on errands and deliveries.
Serena recalls how the herbal shop owners, Mr. Kenzo and Mrs. Elda, praised her intelligence and fostered her medical interest.
Serena hands Levin a scroll and asks him to look up the listed ingredients.
As Levin works, Serena reflects on how much the boy has grown since they last met.
Serena considers if any other items are needed.
She remembers that the Emperor's health fails on the anniversary of his mother's death. A fiery determination fills Serena as she vows to be thoroughly prepared this time.
A brown-haired man observes Serena from the doorway of the shop.
The man wonders where the owner is, while Serena is startled by the stranger's sudden presence.
A steady step sounds as the man walks in and sits down without saying a word.
A quick turn sounds as Levin returns to the counter and excitedly greets Serena.
Levin struggles with heavy boxes, while Serena explains she only wanted an inventory check before ordering. Serena tells Levin to use her name at the palace gates, causing the brown-haired man to react in shock.
The man recognizes the name Serena Vincent as he watches her.
Serena senses his gaze and turns to face the mysterious man.
Serena asks if they know each other, but the man flatly denies it.
Serena finds the man's direct and blunt behavior incredibly suspicious and annoying.
Serena tries to stay calm despite the man's teasing until Levin excitedly recognizes him as Jack.
Serena wonders if this man is one of the Emperor's legendary closest friends.
Jack Gordon confirms his identity as the owner of Gordon Trading with a playful grin. Levin and Jack discuss his travels and why the shop owners are currently away on business.
Jack stares at Serena with an unreadable expression.
Jack openly teases Serena about her beauty, leaving her feeling frustrated and annoyed.
Serena settles her bill with Levin, deciding to pay half now and leave for her next destination. A cheerful wave sounds as Serena departs after asking Levin to give his parents her best.
Jack watches Serena walk away with a curious and lingering smile.
The scene shifts to the exterior of an elegant, multi-storied building.
Serena waits in a grand office, wondering if her unannounced visit was too sudden.
A purple-haired man greets Serena, expressing surprise at seeing her again so soon.
Serena and Count Harrison exchange polite thanks for meeting on such short notice.
Serena explains she has urgent questions after reading a book the Count recommended.
Count Harrison smiles and invites her to share what part of the text sparked her curiosity. A soft clink sounds as Serena sets down her tea and asks about potential medical exceptions.
Serena asks if mana cores can be malformed from birth, which the Count confirms. The Count explains that mana levels are typically predetermined at the moment of birth.
He uses an analogy of small pants to describe a malformed core, which Serena finds clarifies the situation perfectly.
Serena reflects on the Emperor's case, noting his marking is far too distinct for a flawed core. She recalls how his core absorbed all her channeled mana during a previous diagnostic attempt.
A quiet sip sounds as Serena notes the brief improvement in his condition after the mana transfer.
Serena remains focused on confirming if this experimental diagnostic method is actually viable.
Serena asks Count Harrison if he knows of any research regarding the injection of mana into a core.
They clarified that she is interested in the transfer of one person's internal mana into another's core.
Count Harrison laughs softly at the unexpected nature of her query. A quick nod sounds as the Count asks for a moment to consider the weight of her question.
Serena worries that her inquiry might have been too difficult or unusual for him.
The Count warns her that such an act is considered incredibly dangerous for awakened individuals.
A soft clink sounds as he uses tea and coffee to explain the unique nature of personal mana.
He warns that while mixing water and tea is safe, mixing two internal manas is far more complex.
Serena guesses the result might just be unpleasant, but the Count implies the truth is much worse.
A heavy silence sounds as the Count reveals that mixing internal manas can actually be fatal.
A secret text reveals that internal mana acts as a poison to others, causing death through rejection.
Count Harrison explains that mana infusion is strictly prohibited, even for experiments. A soft clink sounds as Serena sets down her tea, horrified by the realization.
Serena panics, wondering if she has been accidentally killing the Emperor, and asks if anyone has ever attempted such a thing. Count Harrison confirms that many subjects were once used for experiments.
Count Harrison notes that every subject died immediately upon infusion as their mana cores deteriorated.
A gulp sounds as the Count confirms that not a single person survived the process. A soft clink sounds as Serena remains silent, processing the gravity of the information.
Serena wonders why the Emperor remains alive despite her multiple infusions.
Serena recalls gaining her mana manipulation ability during a mana rampage in her second life as blue energy swirls around her. Serena asks Count Harrison to recommend any research papers or books regarding mana core rampages.
A small, purple-haired chibi waits patiently as the scene transitions.
Count Harrison agrees that magical knowledge is essential for treating awakened patients, while the chibi Serena laughs awkwardly, deciding to hide her true knowledge.
Count Harrison promises to send the requested materials via his secretary as the sun sets outside the office window.
A soft rustle sounds as Count Harrison extends his hand towards Serena.
Serena politely declines a further offer, mentioning she has dinner plans, and they agree to postpone their next meeting.
Serena departs after thanking the Count, a soft rustle sounding as she walks away while feeling a lingering sense of unease.
The purple-haired man is described as one of the Emperor's closest aides, granted the rare honor of a gold Isrin.
The scene shifts to the exterior of the office located in the business district of the Greenwood Duchy.
Count Harrison sips his tea, reflecting on the higher-ranking red eyes rings held by others.
Chibi Serena explains that while gold eyes rings allow for international travel, only red eyes rings grant the authority to command Imperial Knights.
Serena notes the Count's lack of military authority but remains suspicious of the Emperor's surveillance during his travels.
A final thought appears, emphasizing that caution is better than later regret.
Through the office window, Serena is seen walking away with her luggage.
Count Harrison watches Serena's departure with a deep, silent focus.
A caption announces that Serena has reached her final destination of the day.
Serena stands before the gates of the Grand Vincent Estate, the home she once left behind.
Looking at the building, Serena notes that this is her first voluntary return since leaving. A man with glasses and a mustache offers a fake smile while welcoming Serena back to the estate.
The man leads the way while flattering her beauty, leaving Serena annoyed by his obvious performance.
Serena recalls the mistreatment she once faced from the staff as she is guided toward a VIP room.
Serena enters the luxurious room with a cautious expression. She observes that the decor remains unchanged, filled with fresh flowers and expensive masterpieces.
Serena bitterly notes the luxury of the room, recalling how they never fixed her leaky ceiling in the past.
Steady steps sound as Serena walks across the room, telling the man she only intends to read while he offers to prepare tea. A quick snap sounds as Serena pulls a book from the shelf.
Serena reflects on her expectations of pain and overwhelm upon her return.
A soft rustle sounds as she opens the book, realizing her past regressions have made her more resilient to these memories.
A sudden loud bang sounds as an angry voice commands others to move out of the way.
A loud crash sounds as the door is kicked open, startling Serena.
A brown-haired woman enters with a mocking smile, greeting Serena. The woman questions why an esteemed guest from the palace has suddenly returned home.
Serena stares back coldly, identifying the intruder as Lydia.
A cheerful chibi witch waves goodbye as the chapter concludes.
Lydia mockingly suggests Serena is only a doctor because she failed to make money elsewhere and mentions her paid entry into the academy.
A quiet sip sounds as Serena calmly asks Lydia if she was the one who was actually expelled. Lydia shouts in a rage that she dropped out voluntarily while Serena mocks her for wasting family money.
Serena returns to her reading with a satisfied, smug smile.
Lydia seethes with anger, accusing Serena of becoming arrogant since moving to the palace.
Serena taunts Lydia by asking if she's visited the National Library lately, knowing she can no longer enter as a dropout. Lydia asks with a malicious grin if Serena still feels inferior to her, but Serena dismisses the claim as nonsense.
Serena rests her chin on her hand, looking thoughtfully at the woman before her.
Serena remarks that inferiority is an emotion one only feels toward those who are truly better than them.
Lydia trembles with rage as Serena mockingly reminds her of being expelled for her lack of intelligence. A sharp splash sounds as Lydia loses her temper and hurls her tea toward Serena.
A quick block sounds as Serena uses her book as a shield, causing the tea to splash back onto a shocked Lydia. Serena smiles smugly while mocking Lydia's failure, attributing her own victory to the power of knowledge.
Serena dismissively suggests Lydia change her tea-soaked clothes as the brown-haired woman continues to scream in frustration.
Lydia dries herself with a cloth as Serena explains that her return to the estate had a specific purpose. Serena looms over a cowering Lydia, her presence radiating a cold and intimidating authority.
A quiet huff sounds as Serena leans in and advises Lydia to get her temper under control. Lydia's face flushes a deep red as she seethes with humiliated rage.
A frustrated scream sounds as Serena turns her back and walks away, leaving Lydia to vent her anger in the empty room.
The scene shifts to the grand and ornate architecture of the mansion's upper levels.
A rhythmic step sounds as Serena walks through the hallway, reflecting on how Lydia's cruelty mirrors her father's.
A quick glance sounds as Serena's sharp eyes catch sight of something familiar through the window. A soft rustle sounds as Serena looks out at the garden, which remains unchanged from her childhood memories. A nostalgic sigh sounds as Serena recalls a family tea party in the garden, noting that it is now merely a managed space.
The garden glows with a warm golden light as Serena watches from behind the glass doors.
A soft sigh sounds as Serena prepares herself for the final confrontation with her past.
Serena hopes that today's events will finally sever her lingering ties with this toxic family.
A heavy creak sounds as the massive doors swing open to reveal a table laden with a lavish feast. A formal bow sounds as Serena greets the bearded man at the head of the table, acknowledging him as her lord.
The brown-haired man coldly commands Serena to take a seat beside him.
A loud shout sounds as Lydia protests her father's decision, while Tyler watches the interaction in silence.
Serena notes with a secret satisfaction that the seat Lydia once dominated is now empty.
A dark thought appears, suggesting the family is desperate to use Serena to gain favor with the palace.
A sharp clink sounds as the father demands to know why Serena ignored his previous summons.
A dismissive huff sounds as Serena mocks her father's sudden concern for propriety and etiquette.
Serena lets out a mocking laugh, leaving the father and Tyler staring at her in confused silence. Serena resolves to act in a way that will ensure they never bother her again. Serena laughs mockingly, reminding her father that he never actually bothered to raise her properly.
A sharp gasp sounds as Tyler accuses Serena of becoming arrogant due to her new position.
Serena smiles brightly while cutting her food, noting that her success has finally earned her a seat at their table. A sharp command sounds as Tyler tries to retort, but his father orders him to remain silent.
The father asks about the Emperor's favor, while Serena mentally warns him to stay away from her.
A faint chuckle sounds as Serena recalls the Emperor's distaste for walks, contradicting her family's assumptions. Lydia and Tyler dismiss the rumors of the Emperor's favor as Serena plays along, calling herself a mere official.
A quiet clink sounds as Serena mentions her title and her role as the Emperor's personal physician.
The bearded man tries to manipulate Serena by falsely claiming he always treated her with kindness.
Serena stares at him with flat disbelief, mentally rejecting his blatant and self-serving lie. The father mentions Lydia's marriage prospects and Tyler's business ambitions as his true motive. A firm grip sounds as he makes his request for a formal introduction at the palace. A heavy gulp sounds as he asks Serena to introduce her siblings to the Emperor during the upcoming festival.
Serena looks at them with a dark, mocking grin, finding their desperation truly pathetic.
A sharp slam sounds as Serena calls out their boundless shamelessness and declares they are no longer worth her time.
A loud stomp sounds as the father shouts in a rage, warning Serena she will regret leaving.
Serena remains completely unfazed by his threats as she walks away without looking back.
Serena waves a cheerful goodbye, radiating a sense of absolute triumph and liberation.
Lydia and the father are left paralyzed by a mixture of shock and uncontrollable fury.
A loud crash sounds from the estate as the father's final, enraged scream echoes through the air.
A cheerful hum sounds as Serena walks through the town under the night sky, feeling lighthearted. Serena celebrates her long-awaited revenge with a joyful smile, savoring the sweetness of her victory. In a pleasant mood, Serena contemplates grabbing a drink before heading home. A sudden, sharp noise startles her. Serena searches the dark alley, doubting the noise came from the Viscount.
Hearing a groan, she wonders if someone nearby has been injured.
As she tries to strike a light, a hand suddenly seizes her from behind. A man pins her against the wall, silencing her and holding a knife to her throat. Looming over her, the shadowy figure demands to know her identity. A glinting blade remains at her neck as the man asks who sent her. Serena struggles to stay calm, suggesting it's wrong to threaten a doctor, but the man dismisses her.
She offers medical treatment, but the man collapses from his injuries.
A sharp clang sounds as the knife falls to the ground, leaving Serena in shock.
She gasps in disbelief as she recognizes the wounded man as Jack Gordon.
The scene shifts to a quiet inn nestled in the town under the moonlight.
A sudden, loud bang sounds as Serena bursts into the room, calling for Madame Orla. Madame Orla's eyes widen in absolute shock upon seeing Serena's unexpected return.
Straining under the weight, Serena begs for help with the unconscious man on her shoulder.
Madame Orla promises her full support and vows to keep their presence a secret. Serena pauses for a moment of quiet focus before beginning her work.
Jack Gordon lies unconscious on the bed, his face and chest bloodied from his ordeal. Serena observes a deep abdominal stab wound and a severe blade slash across his eye. Realizing the brutality of the attack, she resolves to treat him immediately to save his life.
A soft splash sounds as she washes her hands, noting that while his eye is lost, he is alive.
She works with frantic haste, determined to save him.
Serena holds up a bunch of paralysis weed to dull the man's physical sensations.
She instructs the unconscious Jack to breathe in the medicinal herbs.
A relieved Chibi Serena watches as he falls into a pain-free sleep.
Serena mentally prepares to undo the bandages, disinfect the wounds, and begin stitching.
A quick snip sounds as she cuts the medical supplies to begin the surgery.
Sweat beads on her brow as she works with expert precision to repair the damage.
She breathes a sigh of relief as the intensive treatment finally comes to a successful close.
A weary sigh sounds as Serena finally allows her body to relax.
Exhausted by the day's chaos, she sinks onto a chair, feeling completely drained.
A soft click sounds as she checks her watch, realizing she has missed the palace curfew.
She justifies her absence to herself, knowing she couldn't leave the Emperor's friend.
Serena wonders if the Chancellor will be furious with her for failing to return. She sits slumped at the table, struggling to keep her eyes open through her exhaustion.
The sun begins to rise over the garden, signaling the arrival of a new day.
In the palace, Emperor Titani stares out the window, questioning Serena's absence. Sitting upright in bed, he notes that she is late for his morning checkup. He wonders if she decided to sleep in after her rare outing to the duchy.
Titani imagines Serena praising him for waking early, then wonders if his scary face drove her away.
A servant's voice interrupts his thoughts, announcing that the Chancellor requests an audience.
The Grand Library stands silent as the Emperor prepares for his official duties.
An official bows deeply before the Emperor, delivering news about the physician's status.
The Emperor's expression turns to worry upon hearing that Serena did not return last night.
He recalls her mentioning a visit to the Vincent estate, wondering if something went wrong.
An image of a captive Chibi Serena flashes through his mind as he fears her confinement. A sharp slap sounds as he hits the desk, declaring he will storm the estate himself.
He pauses to consider his next move, torn between impulsive action and waiting. He is plagued by the terrifying thought that she might never return, reflecting on the one-year agreement.
Titani recalls Serena's bold promise to cure his illness within a single year. The brown-haired woman stakes her life on the success of her medical treatment.
The Emperor reflects on the fact that the actual treatment has yet to begin.
Titani considers her disappearance to be a direct breach of their legal contract.
A sharp slam sounds as Titani demands the return of his runaway physician while denying any personal worry.
A terrified official trembles and begs for mercy before the Emperor's mounting dark fury. Titani summons Leonard, who immediately acknowledges his lord's command.
Titani inquires about the timing of his last secret outing while Leonard remains skeptical.
A sharp movement sounds as Titani orders preparations for a visit, prompting Leonard to question his motives.
Titani claims he is merely inspecting public sentiment despite his visible agitation. Leonard humorously praises the Emperor's supposed concern for his people as Titani snaps at him.
The official realizes that the rumors regarding the Emperor's affection for the physician are true.
A silent prayer for Serena's safety echoes through the tense atmosphere of the palace.
The scene shifts to the massive and imposing exterior of the Vincent mansion. Lydia introduces herself with practiced grace as her mother watches from the background.
Titani sits with an air of cold authority, attended by Leonard.
The mother apologizes for the lack of notice and promises her husband's arrival is Eving.
The woman secretly believes Serena sent the Emperor to the estate as an act of guilt.
A soft click sounds as the mother departs, leaving Lydia to entertain the Emperor alone.
A heavy silence descends upon the room as Titani observes the brown-haired girl. Titani offers a charming smile while preparing to ask a specific question.
Lydia eagerly encourages him to ask anything he desires.
Lydia's heart flutters with the delusional hope of a proposal as Titani mentions his physician's visit.
Titani looks at her with a piercing intensity, seeking confirmation of Serena's whereabouts.
Titani internally criticizes the mother for leaving her daughter alone with a stranger for transparent reasons.
He notes that the family's intentions in this meeting are far from honorable or innocent.
Titani presses Lydia for more information now that her mother has left the room.
He asks once more if it is true that Serena visited the estate the previous day.
Lydia confirms the visit, unaware of the Emperor's true focus.
Lydia questions the Emperor's interest in Serena before describing how she left dinner abruptly.
Lydia complains that Serena ruined the family dinner and insulted their father.
Titani remarks on Serena's cleverness, which Lydia initially mistakes for a slight against her sister.
Lydia's eyes widen in absolute shock as she processes the Emperor's unexpected praise. Titani points out how objectively impressive it is that Serena reached such a high position so young.
He watches Lydia's reaction with a calculated and cold amusement.
Lydia struggles to find a response as the oppressive atmosphere of the room shifts.
Lydia clutches her dress and retorts that Serena has a horrible personality and lacks any manners. Lydia slanders her sister by claiming she was a runaway and a thief who should be mistrusted. Lydia accuses Serena of being evil and blames her for the death of the garden flowers.
Titani questions why Serena would be held responsible for the state of the garden.
Lydia admits that Serena was the one forced to take care of the garden as a child.
Titania sharply points out the hypocrisy of a young lady doing manual labor while servants were present.
A dark energy surrounds Titani as he stands up to conclude the meeting immediately.
Titani walks toward the exit without another word, leaving Lydia paralyzed with confusion.
Lydia tries to justify her insults by claiming she only wants the Emperor to know the truth.
Titani looks back with a chilling gaze, warning her to be far more careful with her words.
He warns Lydia that her loose tongue will eventually lead to her own ruin.
A rhythmic step sounds as Titani ignores the mother's pleas and refuses to wait for the carriage.
A rhythmic step sounds as the Emperor leaves the estate, followed by the stunned family.
A frantic step sounds as Lydia runs after him while the mother begs for him to stay.
A steady, rhythmic step sounds as the Emperor walks away from the estate.
Lydia watches him leave in confusion, wondering why her insults toward Serena caused such anger.
She reflects on how Serena was always ostracized by everyone, finding it hard to believe the Emperor cares.
Count Vincent finally arrives and greets the Emperor with a deep bow.
A heavy, panting breath sounds as the Count apologizes for his late arrival. Titani coldly dismisses the meeting as a waste of time and prepares to depart. The Countess begs him to stay, causing the Emperor to pause and turn back. The Count frantically encourages the Emperor to ask whatever questions he has.
Titani demands that the Count silence his daughter, leaving the family in shock.
A sharp, angry shout sounds as the Count yells at Lydia for her disrespect.
Titani mocks Lydia's sudden silence, contrasting it with her previous endless chatter.
A soft, terrified gasp sounds as he suggests she would be better off without a tongue. The Count desperately tries to excuse Lydia's behavior as youthful immaturity.
The entire Vincent family drops to their knees in a humble plea for mercy.
Titani rejects their apologies, calling their family's narrow-minded thinking unfortunate. He points out that their apologies are directed toward the wrong person.
Titani turns his attention toward the estate's blooming garden.
He inquires if this is the specific garden that Serena used to care for.
The garden stands in full bloom, a remnant of the physician's past labor.
The Countess confirms the garden's origin while noting that a servant now manages it. Titani considers the garden to be completely out of place at the estate. He criticizes the garden for being unsightly and blocking the view of the palace.
The Emperor expresses a cold desire for the eyesore to be removed from his sight.
He decides to have the garden moved to another location as he prepares to act.
A quick, sharp snap sounds as Titani channels his magical energy through his fingers.
A bright, crackling burst sounds as blue magic erupts from his hand.
Panic fills the air as blue flames engulf the garden while servants rush for water. The Count is horrified as the unquenchable fire spreads through his family's pride.
Titani smiles, noting the repair costs and the coming social ruin for the family. A frantic, rhythmic step sounds as Leonard runs toward the Emperor with urgent news. Leonard is shocked by the fire as he prepares to deliver a secret message. A crackling buzz sounds as Leonard receives a transmission, and the Emperor hears Serena's voice.
Titani grabs the communication device, demanding to know Serena's current location.
He questions why she is at an inn and how she accessed the secret code.
A muffled, crackling sound comes from the device as Jock's voice enters the conversation. An image of the bandaged Jock and Serena appears as they communicate from the inn. A moment of whimsical magic fills the air amidst the chaotic blue energy.
Lydia is paralyzed by the blue fire while Titani orders Leonard to go to the provided coordinates.
The Count realizes the rumors of the Emperor's obsession with Serena are undeniably true.
He despairs, seeing his family's social standing burning away like the garden.
A soft, trembling whisper sounds as Lydia speaks her sister's name in resentment.
Lydia convinces herself that Serena orchestrated this entire disaster through the Emperor. She feels insulted by the situation, refusing to feel any gratitude for their past. A tight, straining sound comes from her grip as she vows never to forgive Serena. Her hatred for Serena Vincent solidifies in the glow of the magical flames.
A cheerful chirping sound marks the start of a flashback from an hour ago.
A sudden bright flash fills Jack Gordon's vision as he finally awakens in a strange bed.
He gazes down at his torso, which is wrapped in thick, protective medical bandages.
A sharp, pained ugh sounds as he experiences the lingering agony of his wounds.
He wonders about the events of the previous day that led to his current state.
Jack Gordon reflects on his secret investigation into illegal magic stones.
Magic stones are rare minerals allowing magic use for ordinary people.
He remembers being suddenly ambushed by assassins during his mission. A sharp clang sounds as Jack struggles to defend himself.
A wet splat sounds as blood is spilled in the clash.
He wonders who could have treated him after his escape. Jack observes his surroundings with a confused and groggy expression.
The pink-haired woman sleeps soundly at a desk nearby.
He recognizes her as the physician who treats the Emperor.
A soft snore sounds as she sleeps peacefully at the desk. He reflects on her rapid rise to becoming the Emperor's physician. Jack considers the shocking rumors he heard while acting as a spy. He recalls reports of the Emperor's surprisingly mundane daily routine. Jack notes that the physician appears like a very ordinary person. He resolves to thank the pink-haired woman for her medical care.
A rhythmic step sounds as Jack attempts to leave the room.
A metallic click sounds as his hand reaches for the pour.
Serena startles him by asking where he thinks he is going.
Jack is stunned by her sudden awakening and questioning tone. Serena demands his identity with a terrifying and oppressive aura.
A rhythmic step sounds as the physician approaches the injured man.
A sharp poke sounds as she touches his bandaged wound.
Serena threatens him with further injury if he leaves his bed.
Jack realizes the reports about her intense personality were true.
Serena panics upon realizing how late it has become. Birds chirp as she asks to be called by her name.
Serena asks Jack if he has a device for communication.
The two bicker over her sudden shift to using informal speech.
A soft rustle sounds as she searches Jack's coat for the device.
She is relieved to finally have a way to contact the palace.
Serena calls the palace and is met with an immediate angry shout.
She apologizes for her delay while Leonard yells through the device.
Serena is moved by his worry until she hears about the Emperor.
Leonard informs her that the Emperor has gone to the Vincent estate. Serena is baffled by why the Emperor would visit her family.
A heavy thud sounds as Serena collapses in absolute despair.
Jack asks if she plans to go to the estate herself.
Serena panics over the disaster of the Emperor searching for her.
Jack finds her frantic reaction to be quite amusing and interesting.
She fruitlessly orders the brown-haired man to stay in his bed.
Jack suggests calling the Emperor directly to their current location. Serena stares at him in a state of frozen, silent shock. Jack speaks into the device, providing their coordinates to the palace.
A heavy thud sounds as Jack relaxes, dismissing the Emperor's anger.
He reassures the stunned physician that an escort is surely coming.
Jack smiles brightly, pleased by the chaos he has just enabled.
10 minutes later, a carriage arrives at the inn with a shop. Titani appears, looking disheveled and radiating a dark, furious energy. Jack greets him cheerfully as Serena reflects on his incredible speed. A nervous drip sounds as Serena awkwardly welcomes the angry Emperor. Titani is overcome with a sudden, sharp shock as he gazes at the injured man before him.
A heavy, pulsing vein throbs on Titania's forehead as he struggles to contain his rising fury. Serena stands perfectly still and composed, her expression a stark contrast to the chaos surrounding her.
A wave of intense annoyance radiates from Titani as he scolds Serena for cutting off communication while Jack chuckles from his bed.
Jack Gordon flashes a playful smirk, casually asking for some slack since the situation was an urgent matter.
A soft, confused gasp escapes Titani as he tries to process Jack's oddly cheerful demeanor despite his wounds.
Panic flares in Titanis's eyes as he demands to know the extent of the damage to Jack's eyes.
Serena watches in quiet concern as Titani turns away, his internal turmoil becoming visible.
A basin of bloodied water and discarded bandages serve as a grim reminder of the recent surgery.
The atmosphere grows heavy with unspoken tension as the Emperor and his physician stand together in the small room. Serena details the severity of Jack's injuries, explaining that while she administered first aid, his vision will never fully recover.
Jack shrugs nonchalantly, summarizing the entire disaster by stating he was simply caught in an ambush.
A sharp, angry shout sounds as Titani berates Leonard, insisting he should have retreated regardless of orders if things were too dangerous.
A quick, dismissive click of the tongue sounds as Serena decides this is not the appropriate place for a heated argument.
Serena reflects on the danger of the Emperor's orders, realizing that Jack's sacrifice was made in his service.
Titani looks at Leonard with newfound perspective, realizing the man has been secretly handling life-threatening tasks behind a lazy facade.
A soft, thoughtful hum sounds as Serena realizes there is a far more pressing issue at hand. Titania's physical state rapidly deteriorates, marked by a pale face and rapid breathing as he begins to shake uncontrollably.
A soft rustle sounds as Leonard tries to manage the situation, asking Serena to wait outside so the men can talk.
Titani cuts him off abruptly, his voice sharp as he refuses to let Serena leave his side.
A sudden loud heartbeat sounds as Titani commands that Jack Gordon be placed under immediate confinement.
A sharp, sudden grab sounds as Titani takes Serena's arm, declaring the matter finished and preparing to depart.
A quick, rhythmic step sounds as Titani pulls Serena toward the exit while the others watch in stunned silence.
Serena asks if it is truly wise to leave in such a state, only to be told it is none of her concern. A sharp, decisive snap sounds as Titani orders Serena into the carriage, his manners remaining oddly perfect despite his rage.
A rhythmic, galloping thud sounds as the carriage speeds through the town, heading back toward the palace.
The silence within the carriage feels heavy and suffocating, the atmosphere growing increasingly uncomfortable. A soft, rhythmic rattle sounds as the two sit in total silence, neither willing to break the tension first.
Serena observes Titan's trembling hands and pale lips, realizing he is still in the throes of a panic attack.
Titani remains trapped in a state of silent panic, his eyes wide and fixed on nothing.
Serena realizes his reaction is only natural, given that his childhood friend just lost an eye executing his orders.
A soft, gentle brush sounds as Serena reaches out to take Titana's shaking hands in her own.
A firm, comforting squeeze sounds as Serena holds his hands tight, telling him he has nothing to worry about.
Titani is momentarily stunned into silence by her sudden and warm show of affection.
A soft, trembling breath sounds as Serena admits she understands the pressure he is under and expresses her sincere worry. Serena offers a gentle, reassuring smile, urging the Emperor to let go of his burdens for just a moment.
A sharp, rattling jolt sounds as Titani stares at her in disbelief, questioning why she would care about him.
A sudden, forceful grab sounds as Titani pulls her closer, demanding to know her true motivations for worrying.
Serena is taken aback by the sudden shift in his energy, her heart racing as she meets his intense gaze.
Titan's voice drops to a chilling whisper as he asks what right she has to be concerned for his well-being.
Serena feels a sense of déjà vu, wondering why they always end up in this cycle of suspicion and intensity.
She reflects on his poor health and sensitive temperament, understanding that his embarrassment stems from his vulnerability being exposed.
A sharp, frustrated sigh sounds as Serena questions if her long service hasn't already earned his absolute trust. Serena stands her ground with a determined look, reminding him that she is, after all, his personal physician.
She insists that the strength of a bond isn't determined by time, but by the depth of shared experiences.
A soft, cynical chuckle sounds as Titani asks if she truly believes they share any kind of meaningful bond. Serena admits her own confusion, her gaze wavering as she struggles to define the connection between them.
She wonders why she continues to worry about the man who was responsible for her death in a previous life.
A bright, shimmering glow surrounds them as Serena accepts that, regardless of logic, a bond exists between them. The two share a long, silent moment of eye contact, the tension finally beginning to soften in the quiet of the carriage.
A sharp tug sounds as Serena demands the blonde man release her hand immediately.
A rhythmic clatter sounds from outside while Serena sits in silence, clutching her wrist with a conflicted expression.
Titani stares ahead with a cold, crossed-arm posture, remaining stubbornly silent in the carriage.
Rhythmic clattering sounds as the carriage arrives at the palace where Sir Carter formally greets the returning emperor. A heavy thud sounds as Titani steps out of the carriage with a perplexed and weary expression.
Titani extends his hand toward Serena, silently requesting her cooperation as she prepares to disembark.
Serena ignores his offered hand with a visible huff of frustration and annoyance.
Rhythmic steps sound as Sir Carter quickly excuses himself from the uncomfortable bickering between the pair.
Sir Carter whispers a nervous query to an irritated Titani, asking what transpired during the carriage ride.
A sharp whoosh sounds as Serena decisively grabs her large medical bag to leave.
A firm thud sounds as she hauls the heavy bag away from the men with surprising strength.
Serena instructs Sir Carter to monitor the Emperor's health closely following her initial examination.
A soft whistling wind sounds as Sir Carter realizes a significant and tense conflict occurred between the two. The Grand Palace stands bathed in the bright morning light, appearing peaceful despite the internal drama.
Sir Carter sighs heavily, his concern for the duo's strained relationship becoming visible.
A soft rustle sounds as Titani, sitting in bed, asks for clarification on a matter regarding his care. Sir Carter confirms he is specifically referring to Lady Serena's current state and her absence. A rhythmic tapping sounds as Sir Carter relays Serena's strict dietary orders to a stubborn and disinterested Titani. A sudden jolt sounds as Titani angrily denies being petty about Serena's unauthorized outing.
Sir Carter bluntly confirms that he believed Titani is being petty, much to the Emperor's annoyance.
A soft thud sounds as Titani lies back in defeat, while Carter notes his behavior has always been this way. Titani reflects on the Vincent family's attempt to manipulate his favor through Serena. He determines that maintaining a strict professional distance is necessary to protect her from political schemes. Titani resolves to stop concerning himself with whether Serena chooses to ignore him or not. A soft gasp sounds as Sir Carter warns that prolonging a lover's quarrel will only lead to trouble. A rhythmic knock sounds at the door, interrupting Titani's dismissal of Carter's unwanted romantic advice.
A soft rustle sounds as a timid maid enters the room with a tray of medicinal decoction.
Titani demands to know why Serena has not come to deliver the medicine herself as usual.
A sudden gasp sounds as the maid explains that Lady Serena has taken the day off. Titani fumes, realizing Serena appears to only wish to see him during official medical consultations. A text bubble reveals that Serena was reportedly not feeling well enough to fulfill her duties.
Panic flares in Titanis' eyes as he repeats the shocking news of Serena's sudden illness.
A loud sneeze sounds, echoing through the quiet physician's quarters.
Serena huddles under a floral blanket, shivering and feeling a deep, persistent chill. She decides to pass the time while sick by reviewing her old patient journals. A heavy thud sounds as she pulls out a thick medical logbook labeled as her patient journal. She recalls her sleepless night, fueled by intense and lingering anger toward the Emperor. A loud roar sounds in her mind as she remembers writing out her fury to feel better. A soft cough sounds as Serena admits that venting in her journal helped her process her emotions. She decides to turn her restless energy toward more medical research while confined to her bed. A pained groan sounds as Serena's physical state rapidly and unexpectedly deteriorates. Serena weakly questions why her body feels so incredibly terrible all of a sudden. A soft rustle sounds as she huddles deeper into the warmth of her blankets. The Grand Palace hallway remains silent and empty in the bright afternoon light. Rhythmic steps sound as Titani walks down the corridor alone, lost in his own thoughts. He reflects on the worrying information provided by Serena's personal maid earlier. The maid explains that Serena's health likely failed due to her constant late-night overwork. Titani wonders what she could possibly be researching with such intensity every night.
Sir Carter points out that Serena's concern for Titani is evident despite her recent cold attitude.
The maid reveals that Serena's stubbornness prevents her from seeking care from another physician. The Emperor sits in deep thought.
Titani abruptly decides to leave.
He orders his subordinates to stay. Carter correctly guesses Titani's destination. Titania's guilt begins to surface.
He questions his preoccupation with Serena.
Serena's pained expression haunts his memory. A rhythmic step sounds as Titani walks toward Serena's quarters while regretting his previous harshness. A sharp gasp sounds as he experiences a sudden and painful pang of regret in his chest. The scene shifts to the hallway. Titani hesitates at the physician's door. He reflects on the recent tension. Titani calls for Serena, who looks irritated as he realizes he cannot turn back now.
A soft tap sounds as Titani steels his resolve to knock on her bedroom door.
A soft rustle sounds as Titani asks if she is inside while Serena stirs in bed. Serena weakly questions the visitor's identity from beneath her blankets before losing interest entirely. Confused, Serena wonders when she lost consciousness as she struggles to wake up properly. She describes feeling an odd, persistent chill and sweating despite being bundled in floral blankets.
A soft click sounds as Titani enters just as Serena realizes she must call for medical assistance.
A heavy stumble sounds as the purple-haired woman's legs give way while she tries to stand. A sharp gasp sounds as Titani catches Serena just before she hits the hard floor.
A soft breath sounds as Tatani urgently tells the dazed woman to snap out of it.
Tatani realizes her body is burning with fever as Serena's consciousness begins to fade into darkness.
Serena is dazed to see the Emperor in her room as her vision fails her.
A soft thud sounds as the Emperor catches the unconscious woman in a protective and firm embrace.
Serena looks flushed and ill. Titania carries her toward the bed. Sunlight warms the physician's study.
A soft, heavy breath sounds as Titani notes that the woman's fever is becoming dangerously intense. A pained groan sounds as Serena whimpers in her sleep, prompting Tatani to seek immediate medical help. A sudden whoosh sounds as a strange and bright light begins to emanate from the woman.
A bright, shimmering glow occurs. Tatani questions if there is a problem with her mana core and recalls her past magical limitations. He remembers her admitting she can only handle mana to a very limited and uncertain extent. He connects her fever and chills to the visible and glowing mana core on her lower abdomen.
A shimmering light surrounds the explanation of the manifestation pain that every awakened person must endure.
A bright flash sounds as the memory of a young boy experiencing his awakening resurfaces.
He realizes that her lack of memory regarding awakening suggests an incomplete or highly problematic process. Tatani decides a physician is useless and is glad his own awakened powers are available to help.
A soft rustle sounds as he places a hand on her and warns her of what is coming. Tatani prepares to save the wand.
A sudden whoosh sounds as Titani summons a swirling aura of blue mana into his hand.
He resolves to gather surrounding mana and envelop her to prevent her own power from dispersing.
A bright flash sounds as Titani begins transferring his own energy into the woman's glowing core. Serena lets out a pained groan while she continues to suffer from the intense internal heat. Titani offers reassurance while secretly questioning why he feels so incredibly nervous about this delicate procedure.
A sharp gasp sounds as a sudden and unexpected shift in the mana flow catches him off guard.
A sudden whoosh sounds as he realizes his own mana is being violently pulled into her core.
A heavy thud sounds as he pulls back in shock, wondering if the unconscious woman is finally awakening.
Serena sleeps peacefully and snores softly.
Serena snores peacefully while a soft sigh sounds from the blonde man watching her. Tatani notes her fever is gone and her physical pain has finally subsided.
He gazes down at her with concern, wondering if she has been eating properly.
Serena's hand twitches slightly on the floral sheets of her bed.
A sharp tug sounds as she suddenly grabs a handful of the Emperor's hair.
Tatani is yanked downward as she sleepily mumbles a comment about him being bald.
A soft breath sounds as the two stare at each other in close proximity.
Tatani lies down beside the unconscious woman while resting his hand on her face. Serena continues to sleep soundly, oblivious to their intimate and close position.
Tatani stands up and notes she is the first person to ever grab his hair.
He suddenly finds the room temperature to be uncomfortably and strangely warm.
Tatani is startled to see his own bright red reflection in the mirror.
He questions why his face is blushing so intensely from just being near her.
A sudden whoosh sounds as Serena wakes up and begins flailing her limbs energetically.
A soft sigh sounds from the Emperor as he watches her messy and chaotic behavior.
A sharp click sounds as Titani quickly exits the physician's bedroom. A heavy thud sounds as Titani covers his face while leaning against the hallway door. A soft thud sounds as he tries to deny his heart is racing because of Serena.
The palace grounds sit peacefully under a clear and bright blue morning sky.
A soft click sounds as Serena's golden eyes snap open while she wakes up.
She sits up in bed and wonders how she ended up there from the floor. A soft breath sounds as she credits her homing instinct for returning her to bed.
Serena feels her chest while reflecting on her sudden and complete physical recovery.
A soft yawn sounds as Serena stretches her arms high above her head.
She notices a strange sensation and looks down at her hand with curiosity.
Serena is horrified to find she is clutching a lock of blonde hair. Memories of the Emperor's care and her own wild behavior begin to resurface.
A heavy thud sounds in her mind as she realizes she attacked the Emperor.
Serena bows deeply toward Tatani while offering a sincere and humble apology.
She apologizes for her offensive actions while Titani tells her she should rest.
Tatani remarks that his physician acts as if missing work is a fatal mistake. Serena asks if the Emperor is neglecting his health in her recent absence. Titani objects to being treated like a lazy person while they walk together. A soft tap sounds as Titani places his hand on her forehead to check her. Serena is stunned by his sudden kindness and wonders what is going on.
Titania offers a warm and gentle smile that leaves the physician speechless.
Chibi Serena questions if she is currently trapped in a very pleasant dream.
Serena realizes the situation is real despite the headache she still feels.
Titani pointedly asks her how it felt to pull out his blonde hair.
Serena reflects on her suspicious memories of his kindness and their physical contact.
She hesitantly begins to ask the Emperor a very sensitive and awkward question.
A heavy thud sounds as she asks if anything happened between them yesterday. A promotional banner for Casa Comic appears with various recruitment information.
Titani stares at her with a completely shocked and frozen facial expression. A soft gasp sounds as the Chibi Emperor asks her to repeat her question.
Serena asks if she happened to grab something other than the Emperor's hair.
Titani yells at her for being shameless as his face turns bright red.
Serena looks confused and mentions the persistent pain she feels in her side. Titani explains that he was helping with the symptoms of her mana eruption.
A sudden whoosh sounds as Serena lifts her shirt to check her abdomen.
Titani covers his face in embarrassment while Serena comments on her clean state and the Emperor's lack of boundaries.
A close-up reveals a glowing sigil on the woman's side as her mana waves pulse with newfound strength.
Serena remains confused about the sudden opening of her mana core despite her inability to use magic.
Titani blushes and defensively denies doing anything inappropriate while Serena questions the events of the previous day.
A soft breath sounds as the Chibi physician apologizes for her misunderstanding while the Emperor remains mildly annoyed.
Titani flushes red and demands she fix her clothes before asking any more curious questions.
Serena asks for a clear explanation of how he saved her life while the Emperor looks flustered.
A soft breath sounds as Titani explains he saw light from her core and feared a medical emergency.
He recounts gathering pure mana from the atmosphere to replenish her body's dangerous deficit during the eruption.
A sharp gasp sounds as Serena reacts with shock to the news that her core tried to consume his mana.
The Chibi physician is horrified to learn she inadvertently stole energy directly from the Emperor's own core.
Serena grows somber as she realizes the strange nature of their magical interaction. She recalls Count Harrison explaining that such mana injections are typically fatal due to core mutation.
Surrounded by flowers, Serena wonders why she remains perfectly healthy despite the theoretical danger.
Titani looks over with interest when the physician calls out to him.
A sharp gasp sounds as Serena warns him never to do this with anyone else since their mana is uniquely compatible.
She reflects on her recent lack of mana monitoring and how much she has yet to learn. A soft breath sounds as Titani admits he misinterpreted her distance as a personal dislike of his touch.
A soft thud sounds as Serena shouts in denial, shocked that he would think she would let personal feelings interfere.
Serena gives a determined thumbs up while proudly declaring her commitment to professional duty over personal bias. Titani stares at her blankly as she prepares to move on to a new request.
A sudden whoosh sounds as Titani yells at the woman to keep her clothes on when she offers to let him try again.
Serena grabs his wrist and points out he already saw everything yesterday, though the Emperor tries to lie about it.
Titani is overwhelmed as Serena insists he perform the procedure over her clothes to confirm her theories. A soft sigh sounds as the Emperor finally relents to confirm his own suspicions about her condition.
A soft sigh sounds as Titani hesitates, questioning his own confusing reactions to being near her.
A sudden whoosh sounds as a brilliant aura of blue mana surrounds the pair as Titani begins the check. A bright flash sounds as a massive magic circle forms beneath them while Titani focuses his energy.
Sparkles of mana drift through the room as the intense magical resonance slowly begins to fade.
Titani finishes his inspection while Serena watches him with a thoughtful and expectant expression. Chibi Serena notes the sensation is surprisingly warm and cozy while the Emperor remains focused.
A soft breath sounds as Titani explains the warmth comes from his specific fire attribute mana. A soft breath sounds as Serena wonders if a deformity in her core is preventing a lethal rejection.
Titani cuts her off when she suggests comparing her core to others to satisfy her scientific curiosity.
A soft tap sounds as Titani gently places his hand on the stunned woman's head. A soft breath sounds as he continues the tender gesture against a backdrop of white roses.
A soft sneeze sounds as Serena tries to claim she is fine while the Emperor orders her to bed. Serena blushes and relents as Titani places his hands on her shoulders to guide her.
The scene shifts back to the physician's bedroom as the evening sets in.
A soft sigh sounds as Titani tucks the confused woman into bed and finally relaxes.
Titani offers a small, genuine smile that catches the physician completely off guard.
A sharp gasp sounds as Serena yells about his overbearing care while he dismisses her complaints.
A soft tap sounds as Titani pats her head and notes he has grown used to her stubborn behavior.
He asks what he is supposed to do if she collapses again, his gaze lingering on her face.
Titani urges her to be more careful in the future because he is genuinely worried about her health. Serena hides behind her blanket and quietly thanks him for his unexpectedly gentle touch. Titani looks back with curiosity when Serena addresses him once more from her bed.
She explains that her knowledge of the Manicore's risks came from a previous meeting with Count Harrison.
Serena asks the Emperor to keep her unique condition a secret to avoid public danger.
Titani looks at her with a serious expression and gives her his word.
Titani dismisses her surprise, noting that diagnosis and research are her expertise anyway.
Titani tells the physician she needs to rest because they are going out together tomorrow, prompting her to ask where.
Titani watches her with a subtle and gentle look.
Time passes as a new morning begins.
The scene shifts to a bustling town. The shop contains scientific tools and jars.
A man with an eye patch welcomes the pair to the Gordon Trading Company.
Serena follows behind Titani while wondering why the Emperor brought her to this specific location.
A thud sounds as Gordon offers them a place to sit back and relax for a talk.
A heavy thud sounds as Gordon is interrupted while inviting Serena to sit next to him.
Titani takes the seat instead and tells Gordon he simply did what he was told by sitting down.
Serena sits down while Gordon prepares to show them an item, though she finds the men's behavior surprisingly childish. Gordon pulls out a small and ornate pink box and offers it to the physician. A heavy thud sounds as Titani tells Gordon to be quiet after he describes the box as a gift filled with feelings.
Titani looks away with a slight blush while holding the small decorative container.
Serena looks at the gift with wonder and asks if it is really for her.
Serena carefully holds the mysterious pink box.
Serena begins to open the lid while questioning what could possibly be hidden inside. The box contains a beautiful silver pendant set with a large, glowing blue gemstone.
Gordon excitedly explains that the jewelry is actually a one-of-a-kind custom-made communication stone.
He explains it uses a private code and network for direct contact with the Emperor, which Serena finds impressive. Titani avoids eye contact while explaining he provided it only to avoid another medical emergency, not out of personal favor.
Gordon teases the Emperor for his lack of honesty after redesigning the device from scratch, while Titani tells him to be quiet.
Serena admires the pendant's beauty and notes that its lightweight design will make it very easy to carry.
Titani instructs her to keep both this and the official palace device with her, saying he will use the custom stone specifically.
Serena offers her thanks while Gordon mentions he added his own contact code along with Oziad's.
Gordon gives a playful wink and tells the physician to contact him anytime she needs assistance.
Titani grows annoyed and claims he is her primary doctor when Gordon insists he is just showing respect to his lifesaver.
Serena places her hand on her forehead while deep in thought about the interactions.
Titani calls his friend a flirt, while Serena wonders if the Emperor has finally acknowledged her as an individual.
Gordon tells Titani not to worry while they continue their banter.
Serena firmly declares she will keep her professional and personal life separate and won't date a superior's friend.
Gordon asks if a superior is better, but Serena insists office romances with superiors are an even bigger headache. Gordon teases a disgruntled Titani about being off-limits, leaving the Emperor at a loss for words.
Titani decides it is time to leave while Serena quickly agrees to follow. Serena's name is called out from behind as they exit the shop.
Serena turns her head while walking alongside the Emperor through the town square.
Gordon waves goodbye and expresses his gratitude to her for saving his life in the past. Serena suggests they speak informally next time, and Gordon agrees as she walks away.
Serena waves back at her new acquaintance.
Titani warns her to be cautious because Gordon is nice to everyone, though Serena says she understands.
The pair approaches a red royal carriage while Serena promises to use her new device carefully.
The carriage travels through the town square.
Inside the carriage, Serena mentions she is glad that Jack's wounds are healing so quickly. She watches the Emperor's serious face while wondering what kind of secret and dangerous affairs he is involved in.
She recalls Gordon lying in bed with a head bandage and thinks about how risky the Emperor's work must be.
Serena remembers that an accident occurred during a hunting event in her previous life and wonders if it will happen again.
The carriage continues its journey as Serena regrets not knowing more details from her past life as a low-ranking worker.
She thinks of the Duke of Greenwood's family and worries about sending Titani alone to such a dangerous place.
The two suddenly speak each other's names at the same time, breaking the silence of the carriage ride.
The blonde-haired Emperor asks the physician if she liked the gift he provided.
Serena enthusiastically thanks him and expresses her love for its portability, prompting Titani to suggest she try it on immediately.
Serena explains that putting it on with one hand is difficult, so Titani asks her to give it to him. A soft clinking sounds as he explains the chain can be swapped to use the item as a necklace. A soft clicking sounds as Tatani gently fastens the delicate bracelet onto Serena's wrist amidst a backdrop of white flowers. Serena admires the glowing accessory and asks if he specifically had it crafted as jewelry, though she adds it as a side note.
Tatani asks if she has anything else to say, leading Serena to inquire about which territory he will visit for the upcoming hunting event.
Serena reflects on the fact that the Emperor will be traveling to the Duke of Greenwood's territory once again. She reasons that since he visited the Marquisate of Carter last year, his destination this year must be the Duchy of Greenwood. Tatani looks at her and confirms that her expectation is correct.
Serena claps her hands in excitement while mentioning how the famously clean air of that territory is said to refresh one's lungs.
Tatani notes the location's popularity among the nobility and asks why she wants to go, prompting an overjoyed yes from the physician who celebrates her successful planning.
A soft trotting sounds as the carriage passes through the woods, and Titani comments on her unusual enthusiasm and curiosity regarding the Duchy of Greenwood.
Titani crosses his arms and dismisses her claim that a change in work environment improves productivity as mere excuses.
A moment of quiet reflection as Titani's gaze softens.
Tatani admits that he went too far during their last encounter, leaving Serena looking back at him with a puzzled expression.
He looks away with a troubled expression and explains that he was feeling on edge in many different ways. Serena watches him silently as the weight of his admission hangs in the air.
Surrounded by yellow and blue flowers, Titani notes that she had come to his room that day specifically to apologize for what had occurred.
Serena laughs and notes she never imagined a time would come when His Majesty would actually have to save her life.
The pair continues their conversation in the carriage amidst a sea of blooming roses.
Titani looks at her with a blush and explains he has deeply reflected on the matter to ensure such a thing never happens again.
Tatani clears his throat and invites her to attend the festival with him as his palace companion, earning her vow of total dedication, which he finds suspiciously well-spoken. Tatani looks surprised as the conversation takes a more personal turn.
Serena smiles warmly as she considers the weight of his earlier words.
Tatani looks at her with sincerity and explains that his concern stems from caring deeply about her well-being.
Serena gazes at him with wonder and notes how remarkably earnest and clear his words feel in this moment.
Titani offers a gentle smile, and Serena finds herself unable to do anything but believe his heartfelt claim.
A peaceful glow fills the carriage as the two share a moment of mutual understanding.
The scene shifts to a grand, multi-level library filled with countless volumes.
Serena reflects on how she has continued to seek advice from Count Harrison since her first visit to his office.
Nocturne looks through the shelves and mentions he will likely be away from the capital for a while, making her timing fortunate.
Serena asks if he is going somewhere specific, and Nocturne reveals that he is also heading to Greenwood for the time being.
Serena realizes he is also attending the hunting festival and apologizes for a mistake, though Nocturne tells her not to worry about it.
Nocturne looks thoughtfully at the books and mentions that Greenwood is famous for its dense forest paths.
A soft sliding sounds as Nocturne hands a book to Chibi Serena and suggests they address each other more informally as Nocturne and Lady Serena. A soft spinning sounds as Nocturne turns around and confirms he visited the territory a few times during his childhood.
Nocturne describes a forest with trees so tall they obscure the sky and admits he doesn't like the place, prompting Serena to ask why.
A heavy thud sounds as Nocturne reveals with a dark expression that his brothers used to tie him up in that forest. Nocturne apologizes for the sudden shift in mood while a shocked Serena watches him, though he notes he is now in a better position than his brothers. Chibi Serena jokingly suggests the brothers might end up tied to the tree instead, and though Chibi Nocturne finds it scary, she insists he is succeeding. Nocturne turns to her and asks if she is referring to the young Vincents and the young lady. Nocturne explains that he was eventually forced to leave home because outstanding illegitimate children like himself are always closely watched.
Nocturne stands among blue flowers and continues to browse the library shelves.
Serena looks at her companion with a somber and thoughtful gaze. Serena looks back with determination and declares that she can live her own way thanks to her professional skills.
Serena offers a bright and cheerful smile amidst a flurry of white and purple flowers.
Nocturne looks at her with a gentle expression and notes that she grew up wonderfully despite her difficult environment. A soft chuckling sounds as Chibi Nocturne notes that her medical profession must make her very generous with her compliments.
A soft laughing sounds as Chibi Serena notes that, unfortunately, the Emperor doesn't seem to listen much to her compliments anyway.
Nocturne wonders if the Emperor brought Serena here just to hear her praise, but she remains confused about what was actually brought. A quiet moment of contemplation follows.
Serena begs her companion to forget what she said, but a curious Nocturne insists on hearing every detail.
Records state the Vincent family fire caused no injuries but left the garden beyond recovery. Rumors suggest the emperor destroyed the garden in a fit of rage, leading to the family's social exile.
The nobility avoids the emperor, terrified of becoming the next target of his legendary temper. A sudden quick tap sounds as Serena hurries across the grass.
Serena rushes through the garden, worried that Titani might have actually burned down someone's property.
Serena suppresses a laugh while thinking the rumors are actually quite exciting and wishing she had been there. A golden eye sparkles with hidden amusement.
Titani looks up from his tea and calls out to Serena as she approaches the rose-filled garden table.
Titani notices Serena's sly chibi expression and demands to know what she is thinking.
Serena tries to hide her grin while Titani asks if her meeting with Nocturne was a success.
Serena is caught off guard.
A sharp slap sounds as Serena strikes her own cheeks to snap out of it, wondering if Titani is truly a garden burner while he watches in shock.
Serena firmly refuses to let anyone ruin her carefully planned professional life.
The political decision to erase the Vincent family from the noble registry is finalized.
Titani gazes intensely at his companion. The emperor stares at his tea table.
Serena rests her face in her hands and watches him intently.
Serena asks if Titani wants to try her snack as she slides her plate toward him.
Chibi Serena happily agrees to share their treats during their quiet tea time.
Titani smiles gently as he prepares to eat. Serena sips her tea while noticing that the emperor seems to have quite the sweet tooth.
Nocturne suggests that Serena's habit of praising people must be a professional side effect of being a doctor, which she finds amusing.
Titani freezes mid-bite with a look of pure surprise.
Titani suspiciously asks if she wants him to stop eating, but Serena explains she gave the compliment simply because she enjoys watching him eat.
A soft clatter sounds as a golden fork rests on the porcelain.
Titani grows concerned about his health, assuming she would only say such strange things if something were wrong with him. Serena leans in and asks if he is simply embarrassed to receive a genuine compliment, causing him to flinch.
Titani tells her to stop, but Serena privately thinks he is so handsome that he looks good even with a mouthful of food.
Serena beams at him with a radiant, affectionate smile.
Titani turns his head and hides his blushing face behind a white cloth.
Titani stands up abruptly and forbids her from complimenting him, leaving Serena to wonder why he is so surprised by the truth.
Titani is overwhelmed as he struggles to understand why his heart is racing so violently.
Titani makes a hasty exit, claiming she has completely ruined his appetite while Serena tries to stop him.
Titani stomps through the palace halls in a daze, leaving the passing maids startled and confused.
A heavy thud sounds as Titani clutches his chest, frantic over how fast his heart is still beating.
Memories of Serena's bright smiles and cheerful words continue to haunt the flustered emperor.
Titani staggers away while declaring his condition a sickness, leaving the worried maids to hurry past him. Titani spots someone waiting for him further down the corridor.
Leonardo is surprised by his master's frantic state, though Titani explains he was just about to call for him anyway.
Titani is informed that Duke Greenwood is requesting an immediate audience with him.
Duke Aaron Greenwood offers a respectful greeting to the emperor.
Titania remains formal and asks what has brought the Duke to the palace. The Duke explains he has come for an urgent approval regarding the upcoming ritual hunt. Records describe how the viscous portal was developed for transport before rights were granted to the imperial family through marriage.
Titani realizes the Greenwood family is using the portal to gain control and notes the Viscous family's attempt to raise fees.
The Duke chuckles, but Titani refuses to allow a price increase without a proper and reasonable justification.
Titani accepts a document from Leonardo while thinking that the Duke's words are entirely insincere.
The benevolent facade of a sage. Behind closed doors, the Duke's true power-hungry nature is revealed as he confirms if a matter has been settled.
A folder changes hands while the Duke's expression momentarily falters into one of surprise.
Titani notices the Duke's odd behavior and questions him.
The Duke quickly recovers his composure and dismisses the need for further assistance.
Duke Greenwood walks alone through the Grand Palace corridor.
A stern resolve crosses the Duke's face as he makes his way.
The Duke reflects on a prior success and wonders why things are different now. A sudden thud sounds as the Duke accidentally collides with Serena in the hallway.
A brown pouch slips from her grasp and hits the floor.
The Duke realizes he was distracted and fixes his gaze on the woman before him.
Serena retrieves her pouch while admitting she was also failing to pay attention.
Serena Vincent stands amidst the palace's floral motifs. The Duke observes the woman that all high-ranking nobles are currently watching due to her proximity to the Emperor.
Serena senses the growing scrutiny as she considers how much the Emperor seems to value her.
Serena feels the weight of the Duke's intense gaze as he looms behind her.
Serena nervously wonders what the Duke could possibly be looking at.
Serena realizes she is standing before Duke Greenwood as a vision of Ophelia appears behind him.
A hand grips Serena's shoulder as she reminds herself to remain cautious around him.
The Duke delivers a chilling warning that a butterfly standing out too much inevitably becomes a target. As the Duke walks away, Serena is left unsettled by his ominous words.
Chibi Serena reacts with pure disgust at the Duke's unpleasant behavior.
Serena wonders if the Duke is subtly demanding that she act with more discretion.
Serena reflects on Ophelia's situation and resolves not to let the Duke view her poorly.
Walking away, Serena realizes that staying close to the Emperor makes her a target for the ducal family.
The scene shifts to the grand estate of the Greenwood ducal family.
Ophelia stands elegantly within her family's home. Duke Greenwood returns home and asks Ophelia how she enjoyed her meal.
A sharp tap sounds as the Duke complains about being rushed by an insignificant person while Ophelia looks on in surprise.
The Duke scolds Ophelia for failing to stop Serena from accompanying the Emperor on the upcoming hunt. Greenwood asserts that Ophelia has always been the one most suited to become the next Empress.
A rhythmic thud sounds as the Duke advises his daughter to gain weight to better suit the Emperor's tastes. Ophelia submissively accepts her father's instructions while he places a hand on her. The Duke and his daughter stand together in a moment of quiet tension.
Ophelia's expression is filled with a hidden, uneasy worry.
The Duke dismisses Ophelia to rest while he heads to the library for business.
A soft creak sounds as the Duke enters the library to find Nocturne waiting for him.
Nocturne notes the Duke's habit of calling for him unannounced and mentions the trip to the estate tomorrow.
Nocturne explains they must travel by carriage since the portal is barred, prompting the Duke to mock his alliance with the Emperor. Nocturne asks why he was summoned as the Duke prepares a drink.
A soft splashing sounds as the Duke mentions rumors of Nocturne intercepting a gift meant for the Emperor.
Nocturne clarifies that while he wouldn't use low tricks, he knows the Duke well enough to have been suspicious.
Nocturne explains he only checked the gift out of curiosity and found it to be harmless fruit syrup.
Nocturne mentions he disposed of the syrup and brings up Serena's recent requests for advice before asking to leave.
Nocturne's expression turns somber and thoughtful.
The Duke is pleased by the news and orders Nocturne to keep a close watch on the doctor.
Nocturne warns that his actions might be misinterpreted as following orders, but the Duke finds the situation interesting.
A soft tap sounds as the Duke asks about further measures while Nocturne feigns ignorance.
The Duke warns Nocturne to be moderate and calls out to him as he prepares to depart. The Duke delivers a final menacing warning that he has no use for a disloyal dog as Nocturne listens in silence.
A vibrant hue shifts the mood.
Arriving at the main house of the Greenwood Duchy, Serena and Marie are struck by the grandeur of the estate. Serena asks if the portal really brought them there so quickly, and Marie enthusiastically confirms that its ability to travel long distances instantly is amazing. Marie waves dismissively while they carry their luggage toward the mansion, followed by a line of waiting maids.
Marie sparkles with pure excitement while Serena watches her, looking slightly more reserved.
Sunlight glints off the opulent interior, highlighting the lavish furnishings of their new quarters.
Marie twirls in the center of the room, exclaiming how wonderful the accommodations are.
Serena reflects on the Duke's frequent travels between the properties, noting that his constant presence is likely why the guest house is so perfectly maintained.
Chibi Serena gazes out at the view, admiring the open garden and the lake situated right in front of them.
Chibi Marie notes that the view is even better near the Imperial residence, mostly because it makes it much easier to keep an eye on the handsome Imperial guards.
Serena realizes that the ducal family is likely under immense pressure, as they would be held responsible if anything were to happen to the Emperor during his stay.
Serena stands alone at the window, quietly taking in the sprawling mountain landscape.
Serena begins to unpack her things, suddenly remembering something important. A vision of the Emperor and Ophelia appears as Serena recalls the tradition stating the host's daughter must be the Emperor's partner for the hunt, though she finds the prospect disappointing.
Serena tries to distract her companion by pointing out a unique bird, but a grumpy Chibi Marie remains silent.
Marie turns back to Serena and asks if the news about the Emperor's partner doesn't bother her at all. Marie admits she was excited at the thought of Serena being the Emperor's partner, but Serena firmly reminds her that she and the Emperor are strictly doctor and patient.
Marie urges her to be honest about her feelings, but Serena insists that she is already being completely truthful.
Marie lets out a defeated sigh, admitting she can't do anything if Serena insists on staying so professional. Marie is suddenly consumed by a fiery determination, vowing to make Serena look so perfect for the ball that she won't lose to anyone, even as Serena tells her it isn't necessary.
Marie pumps her fist in the air and shouts for Serena to trust her, declaring they can definitely succeed.
Serena watches with a sweat drop, thinking that her friend is being incredibly enthusiastic about the makeover.
A heavy thud sounds as Serena sinks into a chair, her thoughts drifting toward the upcoming ball. Serena envisions herself dancing with the Emperor, certain that something significant will happen during the hunt, and planning to investigate near the guards during her free time. Chibi Serena smiles to herself, planning to sneak into the Greenwood Library to find magical materials she was too embarrassed to ask Nocturne about.
Rain lashes against the glass as a hooded figure stands outside a door in the dark. A man with an eye patch named Jack opens the door to welcome a guest to the Gordon house, only to be surprised when the visitor greets him by name.
Serena pulls back her hood and reveals she has come to him with a specific request. Jack ushers her inside to get her out of the heavy rain, and Serena thanks him for the hospitality. Serena explains she wants to make a custom request at the Gordon house, reminding Jack of the communication stone he made before as she pulls out her new plans.
Jack asks about the deadline, and Serena explains it isn't urgent since she can receive the finished item after she returns from the hunting event.
Jack asks for the name of the device, and Serena excitedly reveals the blueprints for an artificial mana core.
Serena explains the device is meant to support people with malfunctioning mana cores to prevent overflow, prompting Jack to ask if she is making it for Azid. Jack is shocked that she designed such a detailed medical device herself, while Serena looks on with a confident smile.
Serena recalls how helpful Nocturne was during the design process, thinking about how he always answered her many questions without any sign of annoyance.
Jack mentions the rumor that she passed the Imperial Court exam as the youngest candidate ever, which Serena finds a bit awkward to hear.
Serena asks Jack to take great care with the project since it is intended for the Emperor's use, and he reassures her it won't be a problem.
Later, Serena sits in her room and resolves to test the performance and safety of the artificial core herself once it is finished.
Serena believes that if she can successfully merge magic with medicine, the Emperor's physical condition will see a rapid improvement.
A look of deep concentration.
A heavy thud sounds from outside the window, drawing Serena's attention to a disturbance that has been going on for a while. Looking out, Serena spots a group of noblemen gathered in a tense huddle in the courtyard below. Serena recognizes Nocturne being cornered by a group of men she suspects are the same brothers he mentioned previously, the ones who once tied him up in the forest. Nocturne remains stoic while being harassed, leading Serena to think that the siblings seem to lead very busy, hostile lives. Serena wonders if the tension is a direct result of the Greenwood family's unique system for selecting their next head. Records explain that the Greenwood family prizes individual skill above all else, forcing everyone to compete for the current Duke's recognition to inherit the title. Serena reflects on how much resentment there must be among the younger siblings, especially since Nocturne was a top candidate for Duke before he suddenly left to become a count. Serena reminds herself it is best to stay out of other families' disputes, but she suddenly freezes in place. Nocturne shifts his gaze upward and makes direct eye contact, leaving a startled Serena to wonder if he spotted her watching from the window. Nocturne looks back toward the brothers as Serena reacts with a look of pure shock.
The noble brother asks Nocturne what he is looking at as a startled Chibi Serena hides.
Nocturne remains silent while glancing toward the window.
A shout echoes through the air as the man yells at Nocturne for looking at the sky while he is speaking.
Panic consumes Serena as she wonders why Nocturne greeted her so suddenly. Serena peeks cautiously over the windowsill.
Nocturne stands defiantly before his brothers.
Serena asks if he is all right, and Nocturne apologizes for letting her see such an unpleasant scene. Serena apologizes for not intervening, but Nocturne reassures her that there is nothing to worry about.
Nocturne smiles and says he has something to tell her.
Serena promises to come down immediately.
A soft whoosh sounds as Nocturne dismisses his rude brothers, stating he has business to attend to. Nocturne declares it is time to stop playing as blue flames ignite around him. The brother calls him a cowardly bastard and claims he is nothing without his title. Nocturne calmly informs his brothers that they are no match for him and suggests they never meet again.
Nocturne orders them to get lost immediately while surrounded by intense blue mana. Nocturne threatens to burn their expensive coats.
The brothers flee in terror, pushing each other out of the way. Nocturne watches them go with a stoic expression.
A soft sizzle sounds as Nocturne looks down at his feet, thinking about how pathetic they are.
Nocturne turns his head as Serena calls out to him.
Serena arrives outside, adjusting her hat.
Nocturne notes her quick arrival while Serena playfully asks how he managed to avoid being tied up today.
Serena mentions the noise his brothers were making.
Nocturne dismisses the matter with a slight smile.
Serena teases him for playing with fire.
Nocturne laughs about being caught, and Serena jokes about having a supernatural sense of smell for magic.
Serena asks what he wanted to tell her. Chibi Nocturne apologizes for his sister's previous behavior.
Nocturne explains he wants to give her some advice.
Nocturne warns Serena to be very careful of his sister and the maids while she is in Greenwood territory. Serena begins to feel a sense in dread. Serena wonders if her life is in danger.
Chibi Serena looks confused and uncertain.
Serena asks for clarification, but Nocturne simply tells her to endure it before walking away. Serena reflects on whether his words were a joke or a warning.
A firm thud sounds as a maid blocks Serena's bath.
Serena explains she is there for the Emperor's checkup, but the maid reports he is still eating with Lady Ophelia.
Serena finds it suspicious that she is being turned away despite her imperial authority.
Serena reluctantly agrees to return later.
Serena suddenly stops and looks back. A chaotic scuffle breaks out as Serena tries to force her way inside while the maids scream for her to stop.
Everyone is left gasping and exhausted from the struggle.
Chibi Serena shouts in frustration, demanding that they let her do her job.
A bird flies over the serene garden.
A lavish breakfast is laid out on the table. Ophelia smiles gently while sitting at the table.
The Emperor grumbles that he is only eating breakfast because his physician forces him to.
Ophelia insists the Greenwood-style meal will restore his strength.
The Emperor thinks that Ophelia isn't listening, but knows he must treat her with respect due to her status.
Ophelia mocks the physician's lack of effort, claiming she would provide much better care for the Emperor.
Serena lectures the Emperor on his poor eating habits, advising him to choose light and easily digestible foods for breakfast while he wearily insists he is trying.
A soft clink sounds as Ophelia notices the meager portion of vegetables Serena is eating compared to their own meal and suggests the physician should eat more.
Ophelia apologizes for her small appetite while a maid continues to serve the table, noting that she has been attempting to eat more lately.
Ophelia wonders if she was just scolded by the Emperor and decides it is best to finish her meal quickly and depart.
The Emperor looks up with a neutral expression as Serena announces her arrival for his scheduled checkup.
A sharp click sounds as the Emperor sets down his spoon and coldly informs Ophelia that he has finished eating and she may leave.
Ophelia acknowledges the physician's arrival, but pleads with the Emperor to give her his attention during his 2-week stay at her family's estate.
The Emperor stares back with a piercing, silent gaze that offers no immediate response. A rustle of fabric sounds as Ophelia clenches her skirts in distress while the Emperor bluntly asks if he is under any obligation to grant her request.
The Emperor dismisses her with a hollow thanks for the meal, stating he will see her later at the ball.
A crackle of static fills the air as Ophelia stands tensely between Serena and the maids before making her exit.
A heavy thud sounds as Ophelia deliberately shoulders past Serena on her way out of the room.
A sudden stop sounds as Ophelia pauses in the doorway and looks back toward Serena. Ophelia casts a sharp, resentful glare over her shoulder before continuing on her way.
A series of rhythmic clicks sound as Ophelia walks down the hall with her attendants, leaving a contemplative Serena to watch them go.
A firm tap sounds as the Emperor interrupts Serena's thoughts, asking why she is still standing at the door instead of coming inside.
Serena complains about the ordeal of arguing with the head maid all morning, and the Emperor acknowledges the difficulty of her situation.
A gasp of wonder sounds as Serena is dazzled by the sight of the lavish breakfast feast laid out on the table.
The Emperor invites Serena to join him, noting that since Lady Greenwood prepared the meal, it would be rude to let it go to waste.
A hungry gulp sounds from Chibi Serena as the Emperor explains that he cannot possibly finish the massive spread of untouched dishes alone. Serena takes a seat, deciding that one should never waste such precious food regardless of the circumstances. Serena marvels at how tender the meat is as the Emperor explains the dish is a nourishing tonic prepared in the Greenwood style.
Chibi Serena enthusiastically declares that the flavor has restored her strength and urges the Emperor to have another bite as well.
A soft munching sound follows as Serena prepares to ask the Emperor a question while he continues to sip his tea.
A loud spray sounds as the Emperor spits out his tea in shock after Serena asks him to investigate if she is one day found dead. The Emperor demands to know why she is speaking of such things, and Serena explains she has caught the family's hostile attention because of him.
Serena blames the Emperor for the danger she faces as his partner and repeats her request for an investigation, much to his disbelief.
The Emperor gives a small, confident smile and assures her that nothing of the sort will ever happen to her. A sharp click sounds as the Emperor places his teacup back onto the saucer. A rustle follows as the Emperor notes her surprisingly calm demeanor, though Serena insists she is not calm at all.
A weary sigh escapes the Emperor as he watches Chibi Serena ignore the tension and continue to stuff her face.
A distant rustle sounds from the roof where a guard remains crouched, keeping a watchful eye on the residents from above.
A soft hum of delight sounds as Serena closes her eyes, completely absorbed in the delicious flavors of the breakfast.
The scene focuses on the remains of the lavish morning feast spread across the table. The emperor remarks that she would have been able to enjoy such luxuries every single day in the palace.
A sudden stop sounds as the emperor halts mid-sentence while Serena firmly declares that she does not need such things.
A clatter of silverware sounds as Serena explains that as long as he recovers, nothing else is necessary for her.
Serena offers the emperor a warm and sincere smile.
The emperor notes that many people are eager for the prestige of sitting next to him.
The emperor's expression turns somber as he asks Serena if she is actually anxious because she feels unable to escape from him.
A startled gasp sounds from Chibi Serena as she reacts to his heavy and unexpected question.
A clatter sounds as Serena deflects the awkward moment by offering him more food and encouraging him to eat as much as possible.
A low hum of annoyance surrounds the emperor as he sulks over his tea, leaving a confused Serena to wonder why his mood changed so suddenly.
The scene transitions to the grand and imposing interior of the Greenwood Estates Library. A rhythmic thud of footsteps sounds as Serena walks through the library, reflecting on how difficult it is to truly understand the emperor.
Serena announces her departure for the library and tells the emperor to take a walk, leaving a sulky chibi version of him behind as she wonders if she ate too much.
A sharp click sounds as Serena pauses her stride to reflect on her current surroundings.
The majestic library is shown in its full glory, featuring towering shelves and a grand white marble staircase.
Serena thinks about the library's nickname, the Jewel Box, noting that the incredible collection justifies its reputation.
Chibi Serena gazes in absolute wonder at the shelves filled with rare ancient spellbooks and out-of-print limited editions. Serena reaches for the library's collection, deciding to make the most of her stay by studying rare texts on Mana course.
She begins gathering a large stock of spellbooks, eager to absorb as much ancient knowledge as possible.
While perched on a ladder, Serena is startled when a voice suddenly asks if she has found what she was looking for.
She freezes as she overhears a group of men below plotting revenge for a perceived slight against them.
Serena hides behind a bookshelf as they mock Nocturne for only being bold because of the Emperor's protection.
She is shocked to recognize the voices as the same cruel brothers who have been bullying Nocturne.
Listening closer, Serena realizes that the group is engaged in a conversation that sounds incredibly dangerous.
A sudden voice calls her name, causing a startled Serena to nearly lose her footing on the ladder.
A quick tap sounds as a firm hand reaches out to catch her before she can fall. The Emperor catches Serena in his arms, surprising her with his sudden and protective presence in the library. Chibi Serena flails in a panic as the Emperor asks what has caused her such distress. A sudden bam sounds as the commotion from the ladder draws the attention of the suspicious group below. The Emperor quickly presses Serena against the bookshelf, shielding her from the brothers' view with a soft tap. He leans in close, whispering for her to remain quiet while they hide from the intruders.
Serena blushes intensely, mimicking his silence as they wait for the group to pass by.
One of the brothers walks past their hiding spot, still focused on his grudge and the group's bullying of Nocturne.
Serena wonders if they are truly desperate enough to attempt a revenge plot after yesterday's events.
A series of rhythmic clacks sound as a librarian pushes a cart nearby, momentarily distracting the brothers.
A series of quick tup-tup sounds follow as the brothers dismiss the noise and continue their conversation with cruel disrespect.
Serena is appalled by their arrogance and the way they speak so poorly of the estate staff.
They discuss their plan to ruin the upcoming ball to embarrass the family and make the host uncomfortable.
Serena listens in horror as they plan to turn everyone against Nocturne during the festivities. She watches as one of them reveals a glowing red magic orb, an item of significant and rare power.
Serena recalls that these cores allow non-magic users to cast spells but are incredibly difficult to obtain.
She questions how such a pathetic group could have possibly found such a precious and dangerous item.
The group departs to begin the next phase of their scheme, leaving the library in a tense silence.
The Emperor finally lets go, apologizing for frightening her and asking if she was very surprised.
Chibi Serena stares back with wide, unblinking eyes, still stunned by the proximity and the situation.
The Emperor suddenly looks flustered, covering his mouth as a deep blush creeps across his face.
He remains hovered over her, the atmosphere between them thick with a sudden, overwhelming tension.
The Emperor stammers out an apology, clearly embarrassed by his own impulsive actions.
He struggles to regain his composure while his face remains a bright, burning red.
The Emperor leans back against the shelves, appearing completely overwhelmed by the current moment.
A soft flutter sounds as Serena notices her hair moving, realizing just how close he is standing to her. The Emperor's tone turns serious as he asks how she can be so fearless in such dangerous circumstances.
Serena nervously explains that she couldn't simply ignore them when they were speaking ill of him.
A quick puff sounds as the Emperor's hand reaches toward her, catching her off guard once again.
He orders her not to move, leading a confused Serena to ask if he's suffering from a sudden cramp.
The Emperor's blush deepens as he insists that she simply stay still for a moment longer.
Serena watches him with a puzzled expression, unable to comprehend the reason for his strange behavior.
She notes that since he isn't angry or in pain, there is no logical reason for them to be so close.
Serena asks him to back away as she feels stifled, but the Emperor only lets out a pained groan.
He seems to be in deep distress, causing Serena to worry about his physical well-being.
They share a silent, emotionally charged gaze amidst a backdrop of blossoming flowers.
Serena finally breaks the silence, asking him if everything is truly all right with his health.
The Emperor sinks to his knees in embarrassment, struggling to find the words to explain himself.
Serena reflects on her professional expertise as a physician, analyzing the physical symptoms she is witnessing.
Her medical intuition leads her to a sudden and very awkward realization about the Emperor's current state.
She attempts to reassure him that his reaction is a perfectly natural biological function for a healthy man.
The Emperor groans in absolute humiliation, begging her to stop talking as he hides his face in his hands.
Serena stares ahead in stunned silence.
An oppressive silence fills the library.
A soft rustle sounds as Serena awkwardly attempts to excuse herself from the floor.
Serena informs the Emperor that she must go speak with Nocturne and encourages him to continue his preparations for the upcoming ball.
A sudden turning sound follows as the Emperor reacts to her departure.
The Emperor watches her leave with a serious and lingering gaze.
Serena reacts with visible shock and embarrassment. A soft stammer follows as she struggles to form a response. Serena shouts that she is leaving first as she quickly flees through the library. The library corridors blur past as she ends.
Serena tries to convince herself that the recent encounter was perfectly fine.
A rhythmic clicking of shoes sounds as she insists she could have handled the situation easily.
Serena remains flustered as she continues to run, haunted by the memory of the Emperor's expression.
Nocturne greets Serena and asks about the urgent matter she wished to discuss.
Serena confirms the importance of her visit while Nocturne invites her to proceed.
Nocturne asks if she is attending the ball this evening, and Serena confirms that she is.
Nocturne asks her to reconsider her attendance, leading a confused Serena to ask for his reasoning.
Serena reveals that she inadvertently overheard the young lords of the estate plotting a scheme.
Nocturne identifies the culprits as the same 3 people who were previously with him.
Serena notes that the brothers clearly hold a deep and dangerous grudge against Nocturne.
Nocturne apologizes for causing her such worry, but Serena insists the situation is far more serious than simple concern.
Nocturne stares ahead with a cold and contemplative expression.
Serena mentions the magic orb and wonders why Nocturne appears so much more composed than she expected.
A soft clinking sound follows as Serena explains the high-grade nature of the red magic orb and warns that the brothers are planning a second phase while the Duke is absent, placing Nocturne in immediate danger.
Nocturne sips his tea and thanks her for the information, though he admits the news is a bit unexpected.
A quick gasp sounds from Serena as Nocturne suggests she still lacks trust in him.
A hearty laugh sounds as Nocturne claims to be quite perceptive, while Serena wonders if her feelings were obvious.
Serena admits she was intentionally cautious because she initially believed he was a member of the Greenwood family.
Serena notes that her past caution is a separate issue from the current danger.
Nocturne listens to her with a calm and steady gaze. Nocturne observes her genuine care for the king, which Serena attributes to her professional duty as a physician.
Nocturne states he has a general idea of the plot and suggests that with her help, they can resolve the matter on their end.
Serena looks determined and happy as she prepares for the task ahead.
Melodic humming fills the grand hall as the scene shifts.
The grand Greenwood estate is shown glowing brightly under the night sky.
The interior of the lavish ballroom is crowded with guests for the evening's festivities.
The blonde emperor stands amidst a crowd of flowers as a narration welcomes the presence of the king.
The Emperor looks on with a somber and distant expression. Chibi Emperor sulks while guests compliment Lady Greenwood on her beauty and the grandeur of the banquet. The Emperor stands alone in the crowd, thinking about how bored he feels.
The Emperor notes with disappointment that Serena has not yet arrived. The Emperor assumes she is either isolated in her room conducting research or occupied with the books she borrowed from the library.
A sudden realization strikes him mid-thought.
Chibi Emperor looks annoyed and wonders why he is thinking about Serena at all.
A rhythmic thudding of a heart sounds as the Emperor recalls the warmth and scent from their close encounter in the library.
A soft clinking sound follows as the Emperor takes a glass from a server, thinking about how thirsty he is.
A sudden stop sounds as his hand freezes while holding the glass.
The Emperor looks up in shock, his eyes wide as he searches the room. Nocturne enters the ballroom with an elegant and beautifully dressed Serena on his arm.
Serena offers a soft and confident smile as she makes her grand entrance. The Emperor watches Nocturne and Serena with a pained expression, wondering why she is with him. A quick stop sounds as a woman's foot in a brown shoe comes to a sudden halt on the ballroom floor. The purple-haired Lady Greenwood looks on with a focused and silent gaze.
The Emperor stands beside Lady Greenwood, his expression cold and distant as they remain amidst the crowd.
Serena offers a gentle and warm smile, her face touched by a light blush.
A sharp snap sounds as Lady Greenwood fans herself, commenting that the two of them look quite close.
The Emperor looks down with a somber and troubled expression.
A pained hum sounds as the Emperor reflects on his previous knowledge of their research consultations and wonders if they were always this intimate.
Lady Greenwood watches the pair with a sharp and calculating gaze.
A decorative floral arrangement frames the corner of the ballroom.
Lady Greenwood continues to smile behind her green fan, observing the Emperor's reaction.
She notes that the king's clear agitation suggests there is a deeper connection between the two.
Serena and Nocturne walk through the ballroom while Lady Greenwood remains deep in thought.
Lady Greenwood reflects on a recent conversation she had with Nocturne.
In a flashback, Nocturne bluntly asks her why she doesn't simply give up on her current path.
He claims that the king is completely indifferent to her, but she retorts that it is a family matter and insists that her desire to give up doesn't mean she can.
A soft gasp sounds as Nocturne claims to be speaking out of sibling concern, but she tells him to stop pretending and to stay quiet if he intends to betray the family.
She reflects on how she previously believed he was only trying to provoke her anger. Lady Greenwood notes that she has heard they have been meeting frequently and have certainly exchanged meaningful glances.
The Emperor remains distracted by the sight of Serena, causing Lady Greenwood to notice his preoccupation.
Nocturne and Serena stand together, appearing as an elegant and perfectly matched pair.
Lady Greenwood asks if she is being requested to act as a matchmaker for them. A sudden turn sounds as the Emperor tells her to stop worrying about others and focus on her own affairs.
He offers a brief thanks for the invitation while casting a sharp glance over his shoulder.
Soft whispering sounds as Nocturne leans in close to Serena, while a chibi version of the Emperor watches with intense distraction.
A quick glance sounds as the Emperor notices the interaction and reacts with visible irritation.
Serena whispers a message, informing someone that she will see them later on the right terrace.
Chibi Emperor stares in absolute shock at what he has just overheard.
He questions why she would suggest meeting on the terrace while she already has a partner.
The Emperor announces that he needs a short break and intends to go to the terrace.
Lady Greenwood offers to accompany him, but he sharply insists that it is unnecessary.
He reminds her that as the host of the family, she should not leave her post.
Rhythmic clicking of shoes sounds as the Emperor walks away, ignoring her reminder that they are partners for the entire event.
Lady Greenwood bites down on her fan in a fit of silent frustration as she watches him leave.
A heavy footstep sounds as the Emperor departs, leaving Lady Greenwood standing alone in the shadows.
A sudden voice calls her sister, causing Lady Greenwood to react with surprise. Nocturne approaches her with a calm and knowing smile.
Lady Greenwood quickly claims she only stepped away for a moment to adjust her outfit.
She wonders if they are repeating past behaviors and decides she must go look for them.
A firm grab sounds as Nocturne catches her arm, telling her that he is currently too busy for her to leave.
Nocturne reveals that there is a planned terror attack set for the second part of the festivities.
A sudden realization sounds as Lady Greenwood asks who would dare commit such madness, while Nocturne points toward James as the culprit.
A soft tap sounds as Nocturne explains that they intend to use magic to cause chaos and questions her intentions now that she knows.
Nocturne notes how hard she has worked to prepare for the ball.
Lady Greenwood determinedly thinks that she will not allow anyone who wishes to harm the family to go unchecked. She questions if someone like herself is truly capable of stopping the plot. She asks him if she should trust him, given that he left the family, or if she should trust James. Nocturne smiles and tells her to trust only what she can see with her own eyes.
He presents her with a magic detector and tells her to use it to check James during the second part of the event.
A soft chime sounds under the crescent moon as the Emperor arrives on the balcony and asks why he was called there.
The blonde Emperor stands alone, looking somber and deep in thought. A chibi purple-haired Serena notes his unwell appearance, sensing the gravity of his mood. In a flashback, Nocturne directs Serena to look after the king while he manages the situation with Ophelia. Serena worries about the king's return to the ballroom while he invites her to speak, though she feels the timing is wrong.
She resolves to handle the immediate awkwardness first, knowing he is currently in no state to listen.
Serena offers the Emperor a chocolate, but he reacts with a grumpy and annoyed expression. He eats the treat while questioning if she truly believes he has a sweet tooth. Serena offers a bright and cheerful smile as she presents him with more sweets.
She encourages him to have more, while the chibi Emperor quietly chews on the chocolate. A soft rub sounds as the Emperor touches his face, distracted by a lingering tingle where her hand brushed him.
He stops in confusion, questioning the strange sensation while Serena eats happily in the background. The Emperor suddenly asks where she acquired the chocolate she is eating.
Serena explains she took them from the buffet, unaware as a chibi version of her stuffs her face in his imagination.
A narration reveals the chocolates are actually filled with high-proof whiskey for enthusiasts.
The Emperor reels in shock, realizing she has consumed a significant amount of alcohol without knowing. A quick tap sounds as he tells her to stop eating, leaving Serena looking bewildered.
She tries to soothe him by offering the rest of the treats, and he begrudgingly accepts.
A sudden wobble sounds as the Emperor tells her to hide the box, only for Serena to stagger toward him. Serena claims the ground is shaking, but the Emperor clarifies it is her own body swaying while offering a hangover remedy. The blonde Emperor calls out to Serena as she sits slumped on a bench. A quick gesture sounds as he offers her the medicine, warning that she must take it to avoid falling over.
Serena stubbornly refuses the cure, insisting she is not a beast and can walk perfectly fine.
The Emperor sighs in exhaustion, telling her to eat the medicine even if she views it as revenge for his past behavior. Serena opens her mouth wide as he tells her to hurry up and not regret her stubbornness later.
She happily accepts the medicine from him, her face flushed with a bright, dazed smile. A pained groan sounds over the estate as night falls on the grand building. The Emperor looks at her in disbelief, asking if she has truly decided to act like a wild beast.
A muffled grumble sounds as Serena asks why he keeps insulting her while he maintains she is behaving like one.
Serena declares she will have her revenge as she begins to play fight with his hand. The Emperor questions the nature of her revenge and wonders why she is reacting this way to medicine.
A soft flinch sounds as Serena nibbles on her fingers with a vacant expression.
The Emperor looks on with a flushed face, surrounded by a romantic floral background.
A muffled retort sounds as he tells her to let go, but she insists that his resistance only makes her want to hold on more.
A loud clatter sounds as the scene shifts abruptly.
Serena complains about a headache while the Emperor tells her the alcohol is to blame for her misery.
A soft thud sounds as Serena denies drinking at all, while he explains the medicine needs time to work.
A sudden announcement calls for the guests to take a walk.
A quick step sounds as Serena stands up, prompting the Emperor to compare her to an untamed horse.
Serena asks if he is talking about himself, leaving the Emperor speechless.
She giggles behind her hand, leading the Emperor to decide that silence is his best option. The Emperor sits on a bench, frustrated that Nocturne left Serena in such a vulnerable, sleepy state.
Serena falls fast asleep on the Emperor's shoulder, her face calm and relaxed. A sharp ping sounds as the Emperor's attention is caught by something in the distance.
The two remain together on the moonlit terrace, far away from the festivities.
Narration describes the upcoming second half of the ball as a more energetic event for the younger guests.
The Emperor thinks to himself that the crowded ballroom is the last place he wants to be right now.
He stares ahead with a serious and protective gaze.
The Emperor looks toward the side, his expression unreadable. A soft sigh sounds as the sleeping Serena rests against him.
The Emperor contemplates taking her back to her room, but ultimately decides to stay where they are.
Chibi Azayed carries Serena through the ballroom, deciding to stay to avoid reigniting recently settled rumors. He reflects on how his continued presence shouldn't interfere with her future marriage prospects.
A glowing crescent moon shines over the terrace.
As they rest on a bench, a soft stirring sound comes from Serena as she wakes.
Her eyes flutter open in the moonlight.
She softly whispers his name.
Serena and Azayed look at each other, the awkwardness of the moment hanging between them.
She offers a radiant, relieved smile.
Azayed blushes intensely as her hand touches him.
He watches her sleep again, wondering if she was dreaming of his demise in her brief slumber.
Serena imagines a future of medical volunteer work. His hand clenches tightly, frustrated that she seems ready to leave his side without any regrets.
Why is she so obsessed with him?
A loud, sudden clatter sounds from the ballroom, causing Azayed to wonder what is happening inside.
A stern voice refuses to repeat a demand. Ophelia stands behind her fan, coldly ordering James to hand over what he is hiding.
James sweats nervously while his young accomplice watches the confrontation with wide eyes. Amidst the whispers of the crowd, Ophelia demands he stop pretending and surrender the item.
James panics internally, realizing someone else must have been in the archives while he formulated his simple plan.
His scheme involved using a magic orb to start a terrifying fire during the banquet.
He planned to look like a hero by extinguishing the blaze with a second magic orb.
The final step was to frame a sleeping Nocturne for the arson using the evidence.
The plan was to become the Duke.
James clutches his chest in a cold sweat, terrified that his pocket might actually be empty.
There is nothing left in his possession. Ophelia holds a magic orb detector that has been reacting to the energy nearby for some time.
Recalling her earlier doubt, she considers apologizing to Nocturne for ever doubting his warnings.
James reacts with outrage, asking if she truly thinks a simple apology can fix her accusation.
She cuts him off with a chilling gaze, telling him to remember his place.
James seethes with resentment, hating her for acting superior because of her rightful status.
James glances at his gray-haired accomplice.
He makes a sudden move, beginning to pull off his jacket as a distraction.
A sharp click sounds as a red magic orb is surreptitiously dropped into a tray of sweets. James points triumphantly, claiming the evidence she seeks is right in front of them.
The gray-haired boy stands nearby, holding the tray that now contains the incriminating red orb.
James boldly asserts that she is accusing the wrong person while they search for the object.
Ophelia begins to doubt her logic until a calm voice asks if they were searching for this particular item.
Nocturne suddenly appears holding the red orb in one hand and the young accomplice by the collar with the other.
James and Ophelia stare in absolute shock at Nocturne's unexpected and conscious arrival.
He walks toward them with a confident stride, asking if they are surprised he isn't asleep. He drank the laced glass without question.
Nocturne reveals he knew the drink was laced with sleeping drugs, leaving James trembling in fear.
He mockingly insults James's intelligence, stating he would never fall for such a predictable scheme.
Nocturne expresses his disappointment that such a cheap magic orb was the best plan they could devise.
A loud clatter echoes through the hall. A broken bottle drips onto the floor.
The gray-haired accomplice loses his composure and lunges forward with a jagged glass shard.
Nocturne and Ophelia remain calm as the desperate boy charges toward them. He screams at them to stop ignoring him, his face contorted with rage and desperation.
Ophelia watches the chaos with total composure.
Nocturne and Ophelia look on in disbelief as the purple-haired man curses under his breath. A sudden, brilliant burst of blue flames erupts, engulfing the gray-haired boy as he attempts a desperate attack.
A terrified eek sounds as the boy's arm is consumed by the mystical blue fire, leaving him in absolute shock.
A pained ah echoes through the hall as the boy collapses, desperately begging for someone to bring water for his arm.
Nocturne and Ophelia are stunned by the violent and unexpected manifestation of the magical blue flames.
The blonde emperor stands regally, framed by a delicate floral display as the chaos unfolds.
Nocturne exhales a weary pew as he addresses the Emperor with a hand over his heart in relief.
The emperor watches the scene with a cold and piercing gaze.
Norton explains that the archives were protected as James tends to the smoking boy, though the emperor remains skeptical of his claims.
The emperor questions their safety, prompting a humbled apology from Ophelia for the public disturbance. Whispers ripple through the crowd of guests as they marvel at the blue flames and the emperor's sudden arrival. James panics, realizing their plan to humiliate Nocturne has failed and will instead lead to a severe punishment.
Nocturne orders the guards to take the conspirators into custody, and Ophelia agrees that the situation must be handled that way.
Smoke drifts from a tray of sweets as a narration reflects on how much simpler things would be if handled alone.
Ophelia questions why she was dragged into such a messy and public confrontation in the first place.
She expresses a deep desire to sever all ties with the Greenwood family and their exhausting affairs.
Ophelia declares that Nocturne will always be a Greenwood regardless of the circumstances.
Nocturne admits his surprise at hearing such a bold admission regarding their family identity come from her mouth.
A pained ugh sounds as Ophelia suddenly falters, clutching her head in distress while Nocturne looks on.
The Emperor steps in, noting her obvious shock and deciding to personally oversee the remaining matters.
He commands that she be immediately escorted back to her private quarters while the guards acknowledge his order.
Nocturne offers a gentle hand to her, addressing her with newfound kindness as his sister. She recoils in sudden horror at his touch, insisting she can manage to walk on her own. Nocturne quickly covers her mouth to prevent further outbursts and makes a polite exit before the Emperor. Chibi Nocturne hustles her away while the Chibi Emperor observes that the two siblings seem remarkably close. A hand waves dismissively as the Emperor encourages the remaining guests to enjoy the rest of the night. The Emperor walks away with a steady stride, followed closely by his loyal, purple-haired guard.
His gaze softens as he looks at Serena, who is sleeping soundly on the moonlit terrace.
The Emperor instructs his men to wait inside for a moment while he attends to the resting woman.
The terrace remains bathed in a serene blue light as the Emperor stands alone over the sleeping Serena.
He watches her peaceful expression with an unreadable and steady gaze. His hand reaches out as a soft, rhythmic tap sounds against the stone railing.
A gentle rustle sounds as he tentatively brushes her shoulder with his hand.
He suddenly stops, his face flushed with a bright, embarrassed blush. He wonders why his heart begins to race so uncontrollably whenever he is near Serena.
The Emperor raises his hand toward the glowing crescent moon in the night sky.
He notices a strange mark on his hand and remembers her nibbling on his fingers earlier in the evening.
A soft ah escapes him as the realization of her past actions finally hits home. A heavy, rhythmic thumping sounds as he feels his heart pounding violently against his chest. His guard asks if he is unwell as the Emperor suddenly stands up with a start, questioning his own body.
The Emperor dismisses the concern as nothing while his guard mentions handling the task he was entrusted with.
The guard asks if he has been drinking, noticing the Emperor's noticeably flushed face.
The Emperor waves his hand frantically, denying that any alcohol has touched his lips tonight. He stops suddenly, a sharp realization crossing his features as he looks toward the side. He remembers the chocolate he ate earlier and questions if he has truly developed a secret obsession with sweets.
Serena appears in his memory, offering him a tray of treats with a radiant and happy smile.
Chibi Emperor feels relieved, concluding that only the alcohol in the chocolates could cause such a physical reaction. He gestures toward the sleeping Serena, explaining her current state to the confused guard.
The guard is horrified to hear about the whiskey-filled chocolates and offers to carry her back to her room.
A firm touch sounds as the Emperor rejects the offer, deciding to handle the matter himself.
The blonde Emperor carries the sleeping Serena through the moonlit palace, his expression uncharacteristically gentle as he holds her close.
A soft, rhythmic clicking sounds as the guard questions the situation, prompting the Emperor to dismissively claim he is simply getting some exercise.
He gazes down at her resting face with a look of quiet intensity.
Serena sleeps on, unaware of the strange atmosphere lingering between them.
A heavy, rhythmic thumping sounds as the Emperor continues on his way, his heart racing noticeably as he holds her.
The scene transitions to a clear morning sky filled with soft, glowing clouds.
Sunlight glints off the high towers of the royal palace as a new day begins.
In a cold dungeon, a man grovels on the floor, desperately apologizing and begging His Excellency for just one more chance. An older man with a gray beard stares coldly through the bars, calling James a pathetic fool for attempting such a ridiculous and poorly executed scheme. James protests from his cell, claiming he only wanted to teach Nocturne a lesson after he betrayed the family despite being favored. He continues his desperate defense while the older man counters that begging for the traitor's return would be better for their family's future. A sharp clatter sounds as the older man asks how much longer he is expected to cover for such incompetence.
The bearded man stands regally, the cold light of the dungeon framing his stern features.
A chilling declaration warns that a foolish dog will even lose its own bowl.
He repeats his question, his patience for covering up failures clearly exhausted.
The warning echoes again, emphasizing that a foolish dog's greed will eventually lead to its own ruin.
James trembles in shock as he is told his only reason for remaining standing is because, unlike Patrick, he caused no harm to Ophelia.
A heavy boom sounds as the older man coldly announces that Patrick is disowned as of today.
A sharp click sounds as he declares that Patrick is no longer a Greenwood and will never be treated as one again, regardless of where he lives. From another cell, Patrick begs for a single chance to make up for his failure, but the older man notes he still looks as pathetic as the day he lost to Nocturne. The older man turns away in disgust, questioning what someone who cannot even open a simple door could possibly achieve. Desperate cries for mercy ring out through the stone hallways as the prisoners beg for forgiveness.
A soft footfall sounds as the older man reflects on giving a chance only for it to be wasted without any real impact.
A rhythmic tapping sounds as he walks away, dismissing the recent trouble as nothing more than a childish prank.
A final, biting remark labels them all as completely useless.
A soft click sounds as he walks away, muttering about what a total waste the situation has been.
A man groans in the flickering candlelight of his dark cell.
A sharp crunching sound as James frantically wonders what to do now that even the witful Patrick has been kicked out. He seethes with rage, wishing he had properly killed the arrogant brat instead of failing so miserably.
A soft sizzle sounds from the melting candle as the Duke's mocking voice continues to echo in his mind.
Insults and reminders of his weakness fill his thoughts as he remains trapped in the dark.
A heavy thud sounds as James stares toward the bars, lost in his own frustration.
He realizes with a start that he is in the very prison where he was locked up as a child whenever he misbehaved.
For the young heirs of the family, this place was always considered a hell from which there was no escape.
A A soft thud sounds as he touches the wall, remembering how he never even tried to open the door because it was always locked from the outside. A sharp creak sounds as the door swings open, revealing it was never locked and his imprisonment was merely a mental illusion.
James smiles deviously, declaring to his grace that things will be very different this time.
Bright morning light streams through a window into a luxurious white bedroom.
Serena wakes up with a dazed and confused expression.
A soft rustle sounds as she sits up, wondering how and when she returned to her own room. She recalls escorting the Emperor to the terrace, but winces as a sharp pain shoots through her head, blocking the rest of her memory.
A soft rustle sounds as she climbs out of bed, still feeling disoriented. A soft knocking sounds as she announces her presence at the Emperor's door.
A loud, sudden crash sounds from inside, causing Serena to react with startled confusion. She asks if something is wrong, while a voice from within tells her to wait for a moment.
A soft rustle sounds as she suspects his terrible sleeping habits caused him to fall out of bed while maids pass by in the hallway.
She stands dazed for a moment, surprised by the scene waiting for her.
The Emperor sits regally on his bed, looking surprisingly refreshed and composed in the morning light.
Chibi Serena notes he has washed up for a change, while Chibi Emperor smugly claims he is actually quite clean.
Serena asks if he needs any ointment for his fall, but the Emperor blushingly insists he is not weak enough to be hurt by such a thing.
The Emperor looks visibly annoyed.
Serena hides her own personal weaknesses.
The Chibi Emperor admits that something feels wrong, while Chibi Serena reacts with sudden shock.
Serena asks what exactly feels off, but the Emperor finds it difficult to explain, as it isn't exactly discomfort. The Emperor admits this sensation is new to him, while Serena wonders what on earth is going on. Serena asks for specific symptoms for a diagnosis, while the Emperor explains his heart has been beating strangely fast despite not drinking.
The Emperor describes his boiling blood and chaotic emotions, while Serena asks if his heart feels broken.
The Emperor happily concludes something is wrong with his heart, while Serena stares in stunned silence. A firm touch sounds as Serena asks for a moment, reaching out to personally examine the Emperor.
A heavy, rhythmic thumping sounds as the Emperor's heart beats violently when she places her hand on his chest. A heavy, rhythmic thumping sounds as Serena panics, realizing his heart is racing and fearing he may have a heart problem.
A sudden thought wonders if she might be the cause of his racing heart.
Serena asks if he has been feeling angry lately, while the Emperor suggests it is something more than anger.
He reflects on the many things that have been bothering him recently. The Emperor's expression turns solemn. A memory reveals the Emperor's shock upon hearing from his guard that an entire family has been found dead.
The guard explains that Duke Greenwood likely eliminated the family as they were the only witnesses in a smuggling case.
Red leaves frame a realization about a smuggling hideout protected by the Greenwood family that was nearly reached during the festival. The Emperor laments that they are now back to square one in their investigation.
The guard notes the lack of resistance or signs of suicide on the victims' bodies.
He finds it strange and doubts poison was the cause of death.
The Emperor observes that the family died suddenly from simultaneous heart failure. He concludes the probability of such an event is 0 and wonders what the Duke is planning.
The Emperor lets out a weary sigh.
A sudden movement startles the Emperor as Serena asks what is truly bothering him.
The Emperor dismisses her concern, claiming he is just overworked, while Serena accepts the explanation.
A soft whew sounds as Serena feels relieved, having feared he was still upset about her previous mistake in the library.
The Emperor points out that her real mistake was getting drunk the night before.
Chibi Serena is left completely bewildered. Serena questions if she was truly drunk, while the Emperor realizes she has no memory of the event.
The Emperor notes she attended the ball with Nocturne without his permission, while a flustered Serena insists she had no choice.
Serena explains that Nocturne needed her help to prevent an incident during the event.
She confirms that the request for help was the reason she called the Emperor to the terrace.
The Emperor wishes he had received a heads up, while a dejected Serena apologizes for the lack of time.
Serena recalls the chaos of preparing for the ball, making antidotes, and being groomed by a fiery, determined maid.
Serena begs for understanding for her good deed, while the Emperor asks if he should also understand her other actions.
He raises his hand to his lips. Serena holds his hands close as they sit together on the bed. Serena recoils in horror, asking if the Emperor is some kind of beast. Serena's eyes widen in absolute shock.
The Emperor asks if she was the one who decided to become a beast, begging her to let go. Memories of a drunk Serena biting his fingers flood back as she stubbornly refuses to let go and threatens to bite harder.
Chibi Serena trembles in embarrassment while the Chibi Emperor looks on with a smug expression.
The Emperor suggests she has many complaints about him while Serena frantically denies it.
Chibi Serena vigorously shakes her head.
A sharp piercing sound follows as the Emperor feigns disappointment, causing Serena to feel a sudden pang of guilt.
A sudden, firm grasp sounds as Serena desperately grabs his hands and offers her sincere apologies. Serena vows to never recklessly indulge in alcohol ever again.
While Serena promises to spit out any alcohol, the Emperor finds her small fingers and actions incredibly cute.
The Emperor blushes deeply at her unbelievable behavior. The blonde man is startled by the purple-haired woman's touch, while she quickly apologizes for holding his hand out of habit. She explains she grew accustomed to stopping him from running away and promises to be more careful in the future.
The man ponders her words about running away while examining his hand.
Serena asks if his fingers are injured, but the man dismisses the concern, noting there are no marks left.
Relieved, she asks if any trouble occurred during the ball the previous night. The blonde man appears dazed, admitting he has no recollection of what happened after a certain point. Sitting on his bed, he explains the incident in the library ended well with the capture and punishment of those involved in a planned terror attack.
He notes that the situation escalated because Lady Greenwood was threatened with a weapon, a detail that visibly shocks Serena.
A soft pew escapes her as he reassures her that both Nocturne and Lady Greenwood are safe and only the culprit was harmed.
He flicks her forehead as a reminder to report such dangers to him immediately, emphasizing her role as his royal physician.
Serena wonders if the failed terror attack was actually the tragic accident she remembers from her past life. The man's focus shifts as he tells her to begin preparing to depart.
Confusion fills Serena's mind until he bluntly explains they are heading out for a hunt today. When she questions her involvement, he simply reminds her that his royal physician must always be present.
The blonde man sits quietly, the soft light making him look particularly handsome and regal.
Serena is momentarily caught off guard, left staring at him in a daze. She considers the fact that there will already be several other royal physicians attending the event.
He points out her hungover state, teasing her about eating over 10 whiskey bonbons the night before.
Hoping for a reprieve, she promises to stay by his side for the entire duration after the hunt if she can rest now.
He smiles, commenting on how well she knows how to manipulate a conversation to her advantage.
Serena explains his racing heart is likely stress-induced arrhythmia caused by recent events, such as Jack's injury.
She hands him a sedative with strict instructions as he lazily dismisses her, telling her to hurry up and leave.
Serena revels in the newfound peace as she holds a book in a sunlit library.
Rumors circulate about the disappearance of the troublesome Greenwood brothers from the social scene.
She smiles brightly, delighted that the Emperor is healthy and her days are passing without any major drama. The elderly librarian greets Serena warmly, noticing her consistent daily visits to the archives.
Through her frequent research, Serena has developed a friendly bond with the kind librarian, who often offers her snacks.
The librarian observes Serena's intense focus and notes her deep interest in the study of magic. Serena enthusiastically agrees, explaining that she sees medicine and magic as complementary fields of study. The librarian asks if the specialized archives have provided the information she was seeking. Serena reflects on a rare, privately published collection that was never made available to the general public. Looking at the vast shelves, she wonders where else she could possibly find such an obscure text.
She admits to looking for a specific, elusive book, which piques the librarian's curiosity. Serena's eyes light up with sudden hope at the librarian's response. The elderly woman raises a finger, asking if the author she's looking for is Linda Quilton.
Startled, Serena confirms the name and asks if the librarian is familiar with the author's work.
The librarian shocks Serena by revealing that her own younger sibling was the one who wrote the book.
She explains that because no publishers would take the work, her sibling had to fund and print it herself. Serena eagerly asks for a meeting, but the librarian gently informs her that it is no longer possible. Serena's face falls as she learns the author passed away only last year. The librarian reassures a guilty Serena, finding comfort in the fact that her sister's work still has a dedicated reader. She laments that most people dismissed her sibling's research as nothing more than mere fiction. Serena fumes at such narrow-mindedness, while the librarian offers to give her one of the many unsold copies from storage. Overjoyed, Serena listens as the librarian calls their meeting fate and offers to share the rare book.
The librarian leads the way to a storage building located near the edge of the forest.
Serena looks around cautiously as they walk through the scenic outdoor path. Rhythmic thuds echo through the trees as the librarian reassures her that the hunting party is still far away. Serena expresses how much she enjoys the elderly woman's company and wishes they could talk every day.
They arrive at a small, sturdy-looking stone building nestled among the trees.
A sharp click sounds as the librarian opens the heavy wooden door to the storage facility. The librarian lights a lantern, the small flame flaring up with a bright whoosh.
In the dim storage room, the librarian searches the shelves before finally finding the item she sought. Serena's eyes sparkle with pure delight as she finally holds the rare text, The Birth of Magic, in her hands.
In her mind, Chibi Serena celebrates her incredible luck in finally discovering the elusive book. As they walk, Serena expresses her gratitude while the librarian notes how her politeness makes others want to help her even more.
A sudden thump sounds as the librarian trips, her lantern falling as she stumbles forward.
The lantern shatters on the floor, leaking oil that ignites into a growing flame with a sharp whoosh.
Serena panics, urging the librarian to move as the fire quickly begins to spread across the storage facility.
A heavy boom sounds as the fire consumes the interior, leaving Serena frozen in wide-eyed terror.
Outside, thick smoke billows from the stone building as the fire roars with a destructive whoosh.
The librarian gasps in horror at the encroaching flames while Serena remains paralyzed by the heat.
Panic surges through Serena as she realizes something is terribly wrong and she must escape immediately.
A weary sounds as her body refuses to move, her breath hitching in the suffocating heat.
Surrounded by a ring of fire, she realizes her overwhelming fear is rooted in a deep-seated trauma.
With a determined thud, the librarian pulls Serena along, shouting that they have no time to lose.
A rapid tap-tap sounds as they flee through the burning room, leaving the precious book behind on the floor.
They stumble out into the fresh air, their bodies trembling from the harrowing escape.
A soft escapes Serena as she collapses onto the grass, her strength completely spent.
The librarian frantically begs her to regain consciousness while trying to steady her own breathing.
Gasping for air with a ragged huff, Serena stares at the sky in a daze.
The librarian promises to fetch help and tell Serena to stay clear of the spreading forest fire.
Serena tries to focus her thoughts, reminding herself that she must get as far away from the building as possible.
A sharp sounds as a sudden headache strikes, leaving her confused about her surroundings. Her heart sinks as she realizes she no longer has the book she fought so hard to find.
Inside the inferno, the red book lies on the floor as sparks fly with a rhythmic crack.
She looks back at the burning building, her face etched with a mix of exhaustion and regret.
The scene shifts to the quiet, sun-dappled forest where the hunting party resides.
A lazy sounds as the blonde emperor yawns, bored by the slow progress of the day's hunt.
Riding his horse with a steady clip-clop, he decides he's content with yesterday's successful catch.
His blue eye narrows as he watches. He spots a column of smoke rising and wonders why there would be a fire in this area.
He cynically thinks a fire on Duke Greenwood's land might be a fortunate turn of events for him.
A frantic clatter sounds as a guard arrives, gasping that he has finally found the Emperor. The guard delivers a report, explaining that while Serena went with the librarian, they have lost her trail in the woods.
A sharp "Hiya" sounds as the Emperor spurs his horse, leaving the confused guard behind in a cloud of dust.
Panic fills his face as he shouts her name, his regal composure completely shattered by the news.
Back in the smoke, Serena coughs while clutching the book, relieved it hasn't been destroyed by the flames yet. Her mind wanders to the future, fearing that her death now would ruin her plans to save the Emperor.
She fondly recalls a quiet moment they shared together while traveling in the royal carriage. She remembers standing by his side at the banquet, wondering if her destiny would simply reset again.
A clumsy thud sounds as her legs give out, her vision blurring as the heat overcomes her.
In a fading haze, she thinks she sees the Emperor riding toward her through the trees.
Oppressive darkness takes hold as she struggles.
Her eyes snap open with a sharp ping as she finds herself in a completely different place.
Confused, she realizes she is tied up in a dark room and is once again in the body of a child.
She realizes she has traveled back to when she was 7, shortly after her hair was forcibly cut.
She notices a young boy tied to the same post who apologizes for their current predicament.
She is stunned to realize that she isn't alone in this mysterious, dark prison.
Her younger self speaks sharply, telling the boy to focus on escaping rather than blaming himself.
When the boy suggests waiting for his mother, young Serena scoffs at his lack of initiative.
Tensions rise in the dark room as one child fears they will never be rescued and will be sold off instead.
The purple-haired boy snaps at his companion to fix his attitude if he wants friends, though he insists he has many. While the children are tied to a post, the blonde boy teases the purple-haired boy about never seeing his supposed friends, leading to an argument about neither of them having any.
The blonde child jokes that 2 lonely children have become friends, and while the purple-haired boy protests, he is met with a condescending smile.
Tied up and alone in his thoughts, the purple-haired boy falls silent.
He finds himself feeling unexpectedly peaceful at the sound of the other boy's laughter, wondering if the blonde child is being kind in his own way. A sudden, agonizing scream erupts as the purple-haired boy is blinded by a brilliant flare of light.
Panic breaks out in the darkness as voices scream about a monster while the purple-haired boy stares in total confusion.
Amidst the chaos and pleas for mercy, the boy wonders what is happening as a man's scream is abruptly silenced. He watches in horror as the blonde boy is engulfed in what looks like blue fire, unable to comprehend the sight. The purple-haired boy realizes that what he is witnessing is not fire, but a sudden and violent manifestation of magic. Terrified by the dangerous power, the purple-haired boy shouts for the blonde child to get away before they are both consumed. The heat becomes unbearable as the boy realizes they must flee immediately or be burned by the swirling energy. He reaches out to grab the blonde boy's hand, demanding he get a grip and not give up on his life.
With tears in his eyes, he desperately reminds the blonde boy that his mother is supposed to save him.
He pleads with the other child to remember their promise to escape from the dark prison together.
Determined to survive, he declares they will make it out, but his words are cut short by a sudden shock.
A voice suddenly calls out from the light, announcing that the children have finally been located.
A sudden, frantic patter sounds as someone in a blue dress rushes into the room. A wave of relief washes over the room as a savior finally arrives for the trapped children.
The blonde woman tearfully embraces the blonde boy, apologizing for her delay and acknowledging how long they've waited for her. A knight arrives as the survivors are declared safe, leaving the purple-haired boy to whisper in disbelief that the rescue is actually happening. He allows himself a small, faint smile of relief despite his exhaustion.
Thick smoke billows from the building as the scene of the trauma fades away. In the present, the Emperor holds Serena's limp body close as he kneels in the forest.
He gently cradles her face, his voice cracking with desperation as he begs her to wake up.
Surrounded by white flowers, he holds her close, his expression filled with deep concern. His heart sinks as a terrifying realization takes hold. She is no longer breathing. Moving with urgent desperation, he prepares to revive her. The Emperor leans down to provide a desperate, life-saving kiss to restore her breath. The scene shifts to a quiet room bathed in blue light, where a grand chandelier hangs from the ceiling.
Serena rests peacefully in bed while a doctor explains that she thankfully avoided any burns and only needs rest to recover.
Relieved but stern, the Emperor dismisses the physician from the room.
After the doctor leaves, the Emperor turns to Leonard to ask for an update on what occurred.
Leonard explains that the librarian was managing the storage room when a lantern accidentally tipped over and started the blaze.
The Emperor's eye narrows as he questions why Serena was even in such a dangerous place. A book rests on a table while Leonard clarifies that Serena was looking for a rare, out-of-print text kept in that specific warehouse.
The Emperor rubs his forehead in frustration, learning that the sight of the fire caused Serena to suffer a respiratory attack before being left alone.
Leonard notes that the people nearby focused on extinguishing the forest fire first, only to realize later that Serena had already managed to get out.
Outside the charred stone building, Leonard mentions that Serena likely went back inside the fire specifically to save the book she had left behind.
Leonard observes the librarian's guilty expression, noting that the staff seem to be omitting Serena's role to protect her from trouble.
The investigation concludes that it was an unfortunate accident with no malicious intent towards Serena. The Emperor clenches his fist, haunted by the thought of what would have happened if he hadn't discovered the fire in time. When the Emperor asks about the guards, Leonard reports they were stationed outside and failed to notice her heading into the forest. Cold fury fills the Emperor's eyes as he orders the immediate dismissal of all the negligent knights.
He places Serena's future protection solely in Leonard's hands for the duration of the hunting festival.
A weary sigh escapes him as he reflects on how a single moment almost led to a tragedy. He looks at Serena's resting form, tormented by the realization of how close he came to losing her forever.
He approaches her bed with heavy steps, wondering if she carries a deep-seated trauma related to fire.
The Emperor sits silently by her side, watching over her as she recovers amidst the flowers.
The blonde Emperor reflects that Serena likely forced herself to endure the situation given her personality.
He decides he must stop overthinking the matter on his own as a quiet tap sounds. Sitting by her bedside, the Emperor concludes that her safety is the only thing that truly matters. He reaches out to touch her face, telling her never to get hurt without his permission. The Emperor tenderly watches the slooper. He acknowledges to himself that Serena has clearly become someone special to him. The Emperor wonders if he's feeling the same camaraderie his knights feel when they cheer for him.
Serena stirs slightly in her sleep with a soft moan as the Emperor watches over her.
A quiet rustle sounds as the purple-haired woman begins to open her eyes. The Emperor stands up abruptly, panicking that she might be hurt despite the physician's claims that she was fine. He leans in close with great caution to check on the purple-haired one. Touching her forehead, the Emperor realizes she has an old scar and wonders when she got it just as she wakes up.
Shock fills the blonde Emperor's face. Serena looks up in utter confusion. The Emperor jumps back with a sudden flash, insisting nothing is wrong while Serena wonders what is going on with him.
She surveys the unfamiliar royal chamber.
Serena asks where she is, and the Emperor explains that they are currently in his bedroom.
When she asks why she is there, the Emperor tells her to just lie back down for the time being.
He holds up 3 fingers to test her vision, and she correctly identifies the number with a dazed expression.
He switches to 1 finger, and Serena correctly answers again while wondering about his odd behavior.
The Emperor checks her forehead, noting that her consciousness and temperature both seem normal.
He confirms she has no fever.
The Emperor offers to call the physician if she feels unwell, but Serena insists that she is fine.
Serena immediately asks about the librarian and the forest fire, leading the Emperor to marvel at her worrying about others.
He assures her the librarian will be reprimanded but not dismissed, then mentions he put out the forest fire himself.
Serena realizes she actually saw him during the fire and feels grateful that he saved her.
She touches her forehead, wondering about the sudden pain she felt in her old scar during the disaster.
A blue-eyed gaze focuses on her.
He looks at her with concern, asking Serena if he is somehow scary to her. Silence fills the dark blue room.
Serena is stunned by the question, asking him exactly what he means by that.
She points out that it would make more sense for a patient to be afraid of a doctor, eventually telling him to never mind.
The Emperor asks if there is a specific reason her condition worsened after seeing the fire.
Serena recalls the traumatic moment the fire spread, explaining that her entire body simply froze in place.
She admits that while the reaction was intense, she doesn't actually know why it happened.
The purple-haired woman gazes into the distance, confessing that she still cannot feel at ease.
The Emperor comments on how frail his personal physician seems to be.
He waits for her playful response.
Serena lets out a laugh, joking that those are words she usually says to him instead.
She playfully protests that she didn't get hurt on purpose and that it's only happened twice. When the Emperor asks if she was scared, Serena admits she was terrified because she almost died.
The blonde man's expression softens with guilt and sadness as he listens to her confession.
He mutters quietly that she at least won't have to be afraid of fire anymore.
Serena teases him by asking what he meant by that, leaving the Emperor looking flustered and annoyed.
The Emperor playfully flicks her forehead, making her let out a surprised cry of pain. Serena jokingly asks if he plans to put out every fire himself, to which he replies that he isn't that free.
He regains his cold, regal composure.
He sternly warns her not to get hurt again when he isn't around, leaving Serena speechless.
As the Emperor prepares to leave, he tells Serena to stay the night in his room to avoid trouble, shocking her.
With a final click of the door, he tells her he will handle the sleeping arrangements himself.
Serena sits alone and contemplative in the large bed.
Hiding under the blankets, she questions why the Emperor was acting so caring and telling her not to get hurt.
Serena remains awake, frustrated that she cannot stop thinking about his uncharacteristic behavior.
As her heart thumps loudly, she admits to herself that the Emperor is truly beautiful.
In a quiet hallway, a long-haired man named Nocturne is called out by someone nearby.
James, a man with glasses, approaches Nocturne and notes that he seems to be looking well. James asks why Nocturne isn't in the hidden chamber, to which Nocturne replies that he has already visited it.
A quiet moment of curiosity lingers in the air.
A steady patter of footsteps sounds as James asks why Nocturne still receives the Duke's favor despite no longer going to the chamber.
Nocturne stops and asks James exactly what he is trying to imply with his questions. James smirks, suggesting that Nocturne isn't nearly as special as he thinks he is.
Nocturne stares back, recalling how he was the one who opened the door himself.
In a dark flashback, desperate cries for mercy ring out from behind a heavy cell door used by the Duke to punish cadets. A young Nocturne stands before the Duke, who rewards the child's ability to free himself with power and favor.
After realizing the imprisonment was merely a cruel test, Nocturne eventually decided to leave the Greenwood family.
James mocks Nocturne's past, asking if it was fun watching his brothers suffer while he enjoyed the Duke's favor.
Nocturne retorts that James seems to be the one planning to be left behind this time.
James is startled by the sharp response as Nocturne prepares to want away.
Grabbing Nocturne's arm, James blames him for Patrick's disinheritance, but Nocturne coldly states that Patrick brought the ruin upon himself.
Nocturne warns James that survival in their world requires the sense to read the room, something James clearly lacks.
James boasts that he has been promised the position of heir, but Nocturne reveals he threw that same position away long ago.
Enraged, James lunges at Nocturne and calls him a fraud who is nothing but talk.
A small blue flame erupts from Nocturne's ring, catching James completely off guard.
James collapses to the floor, screaming in agony as Nocturne's magic takes hold. Nocturne looks down at his fallen rival, declaring that only the Emperor stands above him and questioning James's delusions of grandeur.
He leaves James groveling, reflecting on how easily the Duke replaces those who fail him.
The sound of steady footsteps rings through the quiet hallway beneath a grand chandelier.
Nocturne suddenly stops as he encounters someone he would have preferred to avoid.
He greets his sister, who coldly tells him to get out of the way.
She notices James groveling on the floor behind her brother and pauses.
The sister questions if their father would truly name Nocturne his successor after he threatened her, while Nocturne remains silent. She reminds him that they both know exactly what kind of ruthless man their father is.
With a sharp turn, she orders her maid to follow her back to her room.
Nocturne stands alone in the corridor, the encounter leaving him in deep thought.
The Greenwood estate stands as a testament to a family legacy built on total sacrifice.
High status and lineage provide no protection from the family's demands.
Both legitimate heirs and hidden illegitimate children are treated as mere tools for the family's glory.
Nocturne reflects on a time when the simple idea of having a family brought him comfort.
He recalls the warm sight of a family sharing a meal together.
His mother died during his birth, and his father abandoned him, leaving him isolated from the start.
He was eventually taken in by his aunt when he was on the verge of being left on the street.
His aunt sharply tells him to sit down for a meal while he watches her from the doorway.
Despite the cold reception he received, the young boy desperately hoped they could become a real family.
One day, he returned home from an errand and called out a greeting to the empty kitchen.
His eyes light up with joy as he discovers a plate of sweet snacks on the table.
The momentary sweetness of the snack is shattered when his cousin begins to cry and scream for his food.
The aunt swings a rod at him, shouting that he should never dare to touch anything belonging to her son. Looking down in shame, the young boy realizes that what he swallowed that day was not a snack, but bitter rejection.
The relationship with his aunt grew colder until he was finally acknowledged as a Greenwood and taken away in a carriage.
As he left for the duchy, Nocturne watched his old life fade away, losing all contact with the people who raised him.
Nocturne reflects on how shared blood doesn't guarantee a family's left.
A blonde man approaches Nocturne, commenting on his heavy sigh.
The blonde man asks for a moment.
Nocturne asks how long he has been watching.
The blonde man mentions he saw Nocturne block his sister's path.
He notes Nocturne's sentimental behavior toward his half-sister.
Nocturne dismisses the sentiment, preparing a small magical bolus.
The blonde man asks if he planted a bugging device.
He holds a tiny pen, asking if Serena knows.
A moment of silent tension passes between them.
Nocturne intends to continue his habits. The blonde man calls him cunning for claiming his actions are helpful.
Nocturne smiles and asks him to let the matter go. A gaze lingers on Nocturne Harrison. Nocturne stands elegantly before a floral frame. The blonde man admits that such blind loyalty feels suffocating.
He tells Nocturne that he doesn't need to serve him like a duke.
He states clearly that he needs a friend, not a hunting dog. Nocturne remains silent and contemplative.
The blonde man reacts with shock at a suggestion.
Nocturne explains his habits were meant for a precious friend.
He playfully claims to be hurt by the rejection of his affection.
Nocturne reveals his cat was meant to retrieve the device.
He admits he only checked Serena's motives due to her odd obsession.
He notes she is simply a very hard worker. Nocturne observes that Serena uses him well despite her wariness. He recalls her busy, exhausted appearance.
The blonde man, Azid, laughs at her perceptiveness.
Nocturne watches Azid with a quiet, knowing look.
Azid is suddenly struck by a realization.
Azid panics, asking Nocturne what he is talking about.
He insists his feelings are only camaraderie.
Nocturne sarcastically congratulates him on his new comrade.
Nocturne prepares to leave for the capital.
A clear sky transitions the scene. 1 week later, the scene returns to the palace.
Serena returns safely as the festival ends.
She reads about magic elements and mana cores. Serena reacts with shock to the book's insults. She screams at the book's arrogant author.
Floating insults humiliate Serena as she reads.
She feels guilty about her suspension and the kind librarian.
The book's cover reads, "The Birth of Magic." Serena resolves to keep reading for answers.
She finds a passage about blurry manifestation memories. The text dismisses mages who lack clear memories.
Serena searches for a way to recover memories.
The book bluntly tells her to live a normal life. Serena roars in a fit of rage. She collapses, questioning the book's cruelty.
The purple-haired woman gazes upward pensively.
Serena contemplates her missing memories of manifesting magic.
She recalls a dream of 2 boys surrounded by energy.
Visions of a blonde woman and knights feel strangely familiar.
Serena suspects the dream is a lost memory. She struggles to recall any further details. Serena decides to seek answers from Aunt Elda.
A sudden click sounds as she prepares to leave.
Serena readies herself for the journey.
Rain falls heavily over the lush greenery.
A somber storm clouds over the grand palace. Inside the study, the red-haired aide asks the Emperor if he plans to travel.
The blonde emperor, Azid, confirms he will visit his mother. The aide worries about the emperor's lingering grief.
Azid requests that the temple be contacted in advance.
He reflects on the anniversary of his mother's passing. Painful memories resurface during the rainy season. The dark sky pours over the landscape.
He recalls the prophecy given to his mother. In a flashback, young Azid stands before his mother, Medea. She warns him to be strong even after she is gone. Medea urges her son to find and cherish his happiness. Azid regrets not asking about the forbidden prophecy. He wonders how she bore the secret of her fate.
Azid mourns her death in a mysterious accident.
The red-haired man watches his master with concern.
Azid tries to convince himself her death was random.
He reacts aggressively when his aide suggests his mother is at peace. Azid recalls how much his mother's hands trembled.
The aide insists the tragedy was divine will.
Azid questions the true nature of the prophecy. He spends every anniversary in isolation at the temple.
The aide departs, leaving the emperor alone.
Serena encounters the sighing aide in the hall there.
She greets the red-haired man with a smile.
Leonard asks if she is seeking the emperor's permission.
A tense silence follows her cheerful confirmation.
Serena notices Leonard's hesitation and asks what is wrong.
He reveals the proximity of the empress's death anniversary.
Leonard warns her that the emperor becomes very sensitive.
He hopes that Serena might be able to help him.
Serena feels embarrassed that their closeness is noticed. She briefly considers delaying her request, but hesitates.
Serena confidently accepts the task of checking on him.
Leonard looks moved by her determined spirit.
He leaves the matter in Serena's hands.
She hopes to catch the emperor at a good time.
Serena takes a deep breath before the door.
She knocks and announces her presence to the emperor.
Only a heavy silence answers her from within.
The purple-haired woman nervously announces her entrance to the emperor.
Serena peeks into the grand study.
Azid sits somberly by the window.
Serena notes Azid is seeking fresh air, and he asks what brings her there.
Smiling, Serena mentions her imperial privilege of a private audience with the emperor.
Azid notes she only visits with a reason, and she jokingly asks if he's hurt.
Azid gazes at her with intensity.
Azid admits he might be hurt, leaving Serena shocked by his uncharacteristic behavior.
Serena promises to visit more often, and a soft pfft sounds as Azid lets out a small laugh.
Azid shifts the conversation, preparing to ask a personal question.
Azid observes her tied-back hair, and Serena explains it keeps it out of her way.
He watches her with unwavering focus.
Azid notes she always wears her hair the same, and Serena admits she's just used to it.
She mentions her maid Mari's failed attempts to change her hairstyle.
Azid gently touches her hair, suggesting she let her maid try something new.
Touched by his suggestion, Serena agrees to try a different style for once.
Azid offers a gentle smile, certain that a change will suit her.
He playfully claims to have a good eye for aesthetic details.
Serena brightly decides to trust the emperor's taste.
Azid asks for her real reason, and she prepares to explain.
Serena mentions her plan to visit the trading company and the apothecary.
She details her need for medical tools and various herbs.
Azid calmly gives her permission to go as she pleases.
Serena hesitates and reaches out to address the emperor once more.
Serena stands elegantly before the emperor.
Serena suggests that a light walk might help improve his heavy mood.
Azid lets out a small, genuine chuckle at her suggestion.
The emperor smiles warmly and takes Serena's hand in his own. Roses bloom brightly in the garden.
Serena reflects on successfully getting him outside while he walks beside her in silence.
They walk through the lush garden. Serena recalls how she never knew or dared to ask about his whereabouts during this time. She worries about his well-being during the time she will be away.
Serena arrives at the apothecary and is warmly sent off by Aunt Elva.
A young man reacts with surprise.
Serena is greeted with a cheerful welcome as she enters the shop.
Herbs and plants fill the apothecary.
Serena begins to recount a recent event to the older woman.
Serena is struck by sudden realization.
Serena asks about her past disappearances, fearing the full truth would overwhelm Elda.
Elda recalls a time when young Serena vanished for about 10 days.
Elda describes being turned away from the mansion by an angry girl named Lydia.
Serena realizes that Lydia must know something about her missing memories.
She reluctantly considers returning to the Vincent mansion to find answers.
Elda notices Serena's distant look and asks what's troubling her.
Elda reminisces about Serena's childhood habit of cutting her hair and fighting.
She notes that Serena was never talkative and never mentioned any boys.
A firm humph sounds as young Serena looks tough and defiant.
Elda recalls Serena apologizing to her unborn son, Levin, as she whispered sorry to her belly. Serena is confused, but Elda confirms she claimed to use something without permission.
Serena looks stunned, unable to recall the incident Elda described.
A sudden bang at the door interrupts Serena's spiraling thoughts about her forgotten past. Jack bursts in, loudly teasing Serena about the Emperor's choice of aides.
Jack presents a scroll announcing he has come to the apothecary to place an order.
Elda watches with curiosity, wondering how Serena and the guild leader became acquainted.
Serena mentions her existing plans to visit the merchant guild later that day.
Jack hands over a list, tasking Elda with fulfilling the order by month's end.
Serena notes with surprise that the delivery address on the order is for a temple.
While sipping her drink, Serena ponders the right moment to question Lydia about her memories.
Jack calls out to Serena, pulling her back from her deep thoughts.
Jack offers Serena the chance to collect her items immediately or wait until later.
They decide to head to the guild together right away.
Serena bids a warm farewell to Elda, sending her regards to the rest of the family.
Serena is stunned to find that Jack has led her to his messy personal residence instead of the guild.
Jack struggles with the lock while Serena eyes the neglected interior with deep apprehension.
Jack makes excuses for the clutter, but Serena realizes the mess was created in a very short time.
Dust and disarray fill every corner of the neglected study.
Jack laughs off the chaos, insisting that a clear spot to sit is all they need.
Jack presents a small black box containing the item Serena had been waiting for.
Serena is surprised by the weight of the box Jack hand-delivered.
Jack reveals a sturdy silver bracelet, modified for portability according to Serena's design.
Serena worries the weight will bother the Emperor and asks if the device can be made later.
Jack explains that adding a weight reduction spell would interfere with the device's internal mana core.
Jack ponders a potential solution involving the use of a rare sacred stone. The fundamental difference between mana and divine power is explained through ancient depictions.
Serena acknowledges the rarity of sacred stones and resolves to seek alternatives.
Serena is stunned when Jack casually suggests he can acquire a rare stone with ease.
Serena questions Jack about his potential ties to the temple hierarchy.
Jack gives a vague, nervous explanation about his annual visits to the temple.
A sudden realization strikes Serena as she connects Jack's words to the Emperor's habits.
Jack remarks on someone's frequent state of distraction during this time of year.
Jack describes the person's mental decline during the anniversary season.
Jack confirms the observations while Serena continues to examine the heavy device.
Serena asks Jack if he knows the location the Emperor visits every year.
Jack admits he is aware of the Emperor's destination.
Jack playfully dodges Serena's direct question about the location. Jack refuses to disclose the secret location, suggesting she ask the Emperor herself. Serena considers the weight of the secret and Jack's suggestion.
A knowing silence hangs over Jack as he watches Serena.
Jack reveals an alternative method to make the device functional.
Jack explains that divine power could serve as a temporary energy source for the bracelet.
The plain silver band waits to be empowered.
Serena agrees that this temporary fix is sufficient for the upcoming inspections.
Serena doubts the priest's cooperation, but Jack seems unconcerned.
Jack boasts about his status while Serena watches his sudden burst of enthusiasm with skepticism.
Jack promises to use his connections at the temple to secure the necessary assistance.
Jack cryptically thanks Serena, a subtle smile playing on his lips.
A few days later at the palace, a message arrives from Jack's trading company.
The correspondence from the guild is delivered to Serena. The letter confirms Jack secured temple permission and included an official entry pass.
Serena expresses surprise while reading the message. Serena decides to prepare the pass in advance.
A close-up of the ornate entry permit.
The emblem on the pass triggers a sudden memory.
Serena wonders if a child from her past is connected to the temple.
Serena contemplates the difficult tasks ahead to recover her memories.
Serena notes the specific date for the temple visit.
Serena is shocked to realize the visit falls on Medea's anniversary.
Serena questions the timing, but Jack insists on the date.
Serena stands in a state of deep reflection.
Serena plans to invent an excuse for the Emperor.
Some time passes as the scene shifts.
Towering green mountains fill the distant landscape.
Serena travels along a winding mountain path.
The grand temple structure comes into view.
Serena is relieved to have made the difficult climb alone.
Guards block the entrance as Serena prepares her permit. The guard identifies Serena as the expected honored guest.
The guard explains restrictions due to an ongoing ritual.
Serena is escorted toward the reception area.
Serena walks through the temple's white pillars.
Serena compares the humble feel of this temple to others.
The history of the gods Agnes and Perianis is detailed.
The guard directs Serena to the reception room.
Serena enters the room and waits for the priest.
An older man enters and apologizes for being late. Serena mentions she arrived ahead of schedule.
The man stares at Serena in stunned silence.
The man introduces himself as Raphael, a servant of Perianis.
Serena introduces herself while they shake hands.
Serena is struck by a sudden realization.
Serena observes the many scars on Raphael's hand.
Raphael mentions the Gordon Trading Company's development. Serena reflects on Jack's tactics to gain temple cooperation. Serena retrieves the device for the feel.
Raphael explains the time required for the sacred seal.
Raphael warns Serena about wandering during the important ritual.
Raphael clarifies that Jack's recommendation ensures her trust.
Raphael warns her about red threads as priests fix a break.
The priests blame a stray cat to the mess.
A fluffy tail twitches as the priests walk away.
The priests discuss moving the threads out of reach.
Serena celebrates her permission and hopes to see paladins.
A sudden movement startles Serena. Serena is shocked to see a familiar fluffy cat.
Serena wonders why Nocturne's cat is at the topple. Serena shouts at the cat in surprise.
Serena questions the cat about the thread in its mouth.
Serena desperately calls for the cat to stop.
Serena panics at the thought of Wartubble.
Serena chases the cat while shouting for it to return.
A tired huff sounds as Serena catches her breath.
Serena shouts in triumph as she finally spots Pi.
A wooden swing hangs lonely from a large tree.
Serena notes that the swing looks quite old.
Serena admires the charming scenery of the lush forest.
Serena turns in shock as a blade suddenly flashes.
Azid pins Serena down and demands to know why she trespassed. Azid's expression shifts to one of absolute stunned shock. Serena questions the Emperor's unexpected presence in the woods. Azid commands her to stay still and remain silent. Serena winces at a sudden, sharp pain in her neck. Azid repeats his demand for her to remain quiet.
A hand bleeds against a thicket of dark, sharp thorns.
Azid gently inspects Serena's neck injury amidst white roses.
Azid repeats his cryptic command while Serena questions his meaning.
Serena winces as a sharp sting grips her throat. Serena reacts with quiet horror at the sight of blood.
Serena is dismissed after her medical treatment is completed.
An awkward silence follows as they sit together in the room.
Azid questions how she managed to bypass his magical barrier.
Azid expresses disbelief that his red thread barrier was breached.
Pi the cat plays happily with a length of red pret.
Azid wonders why Serena is at the temple instead of the apothecary.
Azid instructs her to rest while he prepares a guide.
Serena notes that Azid seems unusually calm compared to normal.
Azid remarks that spending time with her feels like a luxury.
Azid's gaze is filled with a soft, melancholy sorrow.
Azid turns away to prepare for the upcoming rite.
Serena reaches out and grabs Azid's arm to stop him.
A loud, sudden bang sounds as Jack bursts into the room.
Jack is completely stunned to find Serena in the row.
Jack notices that Serena has been injured by a sword. Jack rages about the unknown attacker while Serena demands an explanation.
Serena accuses Jack of lying about the difficulty of obtaining a stone. Serena berates Jack for his deception and close ties to the bishop.
Serena watches the two men with deep confusion and suspicion.
Azid asks if Jack deliberately lured Serena to the temple today.
Jack shouts at Azid about his reckless behavior on every anniversary.
Serena realizes she has just overheard something extremely dangerous.
Serena's expression hardens as a dark realization takes hold.
Serena ponders the true nature of the Emperor's secret activities.
A sharp, grating sounds as Jack dismisses Azid's excuses.
Serena scolds Azid for his total disregard for his own safety. Serena worries that her edge is failing her lately.
Serena reflects on her past, fearing she will become a servant again.
Azid attempts to pacify Serena as her anger boils over. A sharp sting sounds as Serena winces from her wound.
Azid pleads with Serena to calm herself for her own fic.
Azid warns her that shouting will only reopen her neck injury.
Azid is startled as a hand suddenly grabs his arm. He looks up in shock as he is addressed with formal respect.
Serena firmly confronts the blonde emperor while holding his hand.
Serena demands a full daily examination and an exhaustive accounting of his activities.
She insists that he reveal every detail to her without exception.
Serena warns him that she will not tolerate any attempts to hide the truth.
Her eyes reflect a fierce and unyielding determination.
Azid looks away with a faint blush coloring his cheeks.
Serena scolds him for remaining silent during her intense interrogation. A sudden realization of the injury on her neck causes her to pause.
Azid draws closer to the purple-haired woman with a soft expression.
He points out that she is the one who is actually injured and should prioritize herself.
Chibi Azid cowers as Serena's temper begins to flare again.
A close-up highlights the intense, emotional weight behind Serena's gaze.
Jack demands to know if Azid was the one responsible for the attack.
He questions the Emperor about the reality of the assault on Serena.
Azid admits that the incident was nothing more than an accident.
Acting like a scolded pet, Jack apologizes for not providing a proper warning.
The Emperor lets out a long, weary sigh of frustration.
Azid observes that Serena was clearly manipulated by Jack into coming here.
He instructs her to prepare herself for a return to the palace. Serena gives a blunt and shocked refusal to leave his side.
Both men stare in surprise as Jack wonders about her unexpected reaction.
Serena explains she cannot leave after discovering such a serious matter.
She smiles broadly while rejecting the idea of simply walking away.
Serena tells the men to stay back and just watch her next move.
Azid asks if she truly intends to follow him into his private quarters.
Serena cheerfully confirms her plan to remain with him.
The Emperor is left completely speechless by her bold declaration. The grand temple structure stands silent under the bright sky.
The scene shifts as the group continues their discussion. Azid and Serena argue over her refusal to leave him alone tonight.
Azid shouts that her presence in his room is not the primary issue.
Serena notes her palace habits while Jack watches the drama with amusement.
A brief moment of quiet follows as they settle into the room.
Azid looks at Serena as she gives him a knowing response.
Serena smiles brightly despite the lingering bandage on her neck.
The door bursts open as a group arrives shouting Azid's name.
A blue-haired man and his companion look on with total bewilderment.
Jack casually greets the newcomers and notes their slightly late arrival.
The men remark that Serena has perfectly filled the spot left by Lily. The group gathers around a wooden table in the garden.
They laugh together, agreeing that the current arrangement is ideal.
The trio sits outside, viewed through the temple's large windows.
Azid turns to Jack and demands a full explanation for his actions.
Jack looks away nervously as he faces the Emperor's scrutiny.
Azid scolds Jack for pulling a stunt that involved Serena against his orders.
Jack tries to justify himself by claiming he was only acting out of worry.
Jack notes how saintly Azid acted toward Serena while only glaring at him.
Azid laments how Jack's meddling has made everything far more troublesome.
Jack looks at Azid with deep skepticism.
Azid ponders a situation he failed to foresee.
A subtle, knowing smile touches Azid's lips. Jack asks Azid if he would look at someone troublesome with such a soft gaze, while Azid questions what is wrong with his expression.
Jack points at Azid and demands to know what is truly in his heart.
Serena laughs nervously as Azid questions her strange behavior. Jack suggests that if Serena had left abruptly after her duties, Azid would have felt a stinging sense of abandonment. Jack points out that Azed is acting like they are merely friends, which wouldn't sit well with anyone.
A lone warrior overlooks the mountains.
Jack explains that Serena is constantly working overtime, leading Azid to wonder if she and Lily are truly the same. Jack asks what the actual difference is if Azid considers both women to be his friends.
Azid and Serena share an intense moment.
Azid recalls memories of Serena's smiles. Jack calls Azid a blockhead and insists that he orchestrated this entire encounter for the Emperor's benefit.
Azid repeats the word difference while deep in thought.
A sudden, sharp realization strikes Jack. Jack and Azid look out the window as Jack wonders where the new arrival came from.
The group gathers at the garden table.
A blonde-haired priest smiles with warmth. The man is identified as Benjamin Mark.
Serena recalls how Benjamin was a popular nobleman who eventually vanished to join the priesthood.
Benjamin explains he only recently learned of Serena's true identity and offers a sincere apology for his past behavior.
Serena graciously accepts the apology, noting that she had intentionally hidden her background.
Serena reflects on Benjamin's unexpected career praise. Benjamin was once a charming nobleman.
Serena remembers how Benjamin's universal kindness once fueled Lydia's jealousy and led to her own mistreatment.
Benjamin calls his meeting with Serena fate and suggests they meet often, though Serena feels the address is far too familiar. Benjamin admits he calls her Rena out of old habit.
He laughs, saying her old nickname brings back memories.
Benjamin leans closer to the startled woman.
Serena firmly requests that Benjamin address her as Serena instead of using a nickname.
Benjamin argues that a formal name feels too impersonal for people with their history, leaving Serena confused by his implications.
Nocturne interjects, stating that Benjamin's familiarity is excessive and clearly makes Serena uncomfortable.
Serena watches the confrontation with wide eyes. Silence falls over the garden table. A series of heavy thuds sounds as Serena decides she must speak her mind clearly.
A sudden, powerful movement sweeps across the scene.
A loud boom sounds as Benjamin is knocked backward and cries out in shock. Azid's face is shown as he claims the collision was merely a mistake. Benjamin sits on the floor, questioning why the Emperor would suddenly kick him.
Azid looms over the fallen priest.
With a cold expression, Azid sarcastically apologizes and blames his long legs, while Benjamin realizes he is facing the Emperor.
Azid insincerely asks if Benjamin is hurt as the priest frantically denies any injury while the others watch.
Azid sits back with a sharp talk.
Azid assumes a dominant posture at the table, while Serena watches him with silent concern. Serena notices Azid's intense, brooding gaze.
Azid looks at Serena with determination.